Testing, testing. Hello, hello. Testing.
Of people out in the public telling you you're evil if you don't pay attention to politics and you're privileged and you're a racist and all this stuff because you get to not do it. But it's like even my black friends who aren't that well off are like, yeah, no, I also don't know what's going on and I don't really have an opinion on it because I just don't have time to. So that doesn't really speak to me. So like that's where it's coming from, where I'm like a lot of people
all those people that
out of engagement.
Yeah, but like,
Huh? I mean, like nobody really bullies people into paying attention to politics. What they do is they bully people into having the right vogue political opinions.
Yeah.
Right. Like nobody No, like there's none of these none of these people that are like, oh, you don't pay attention to politics, that's wrong, are like, so for Christmas I bought you a fucking, the full volume set of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire, so that you can be, more aware of how nations fall. No, they're like say the phrase.
Yeah, and
say the words.
The only people I've seen come
say
back
your pronouns or some
getting
shit,
or like pick up a news article. I think some people operate that way.
Kind of. I think the only people I've seen come back.
That is. I feel like that's kind of the same thing, though, right?
No,
because
I mean,
like, if you're getting your news from major news media, you're a fucking retard, right? Like, if you think Wall Street Journal or New York Times are giving you like good info, like, you're dumb.
Yeah,
I guess I know I'm dumb.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I feel like last week is
probably
the prime example of this. Like, it's so predictable, like how people are gonna react to any given source now. That, like, I'll just make a claim at this point when I come on, especially this panel now, because it's a running meme.
Bro, what is going on with your camera?
Well, don't
worry about fisheye lens.
We've been asking that for months.
No, not fisheye. That's
there's some weird red.
It's an aspect ratio thing.
I'll worry about it in a minute. I don't give a fuck.
Some fucking freak keeps.
Listen, it works good on my screen. I don't give a fuck.
My bad. I fucked you up. My bad.
Yeah. Anyway, so like
the Ozempic lens is what.
Yeah, the Ozempic lens. Literally last week, the
like there's mirrors in stores.
I feel like at this point, like especially on these panels, I like just know that like if I make a claim, even if I have like tons of evidence, it doesn't matter. Someone's gonna go.
Evidence.
Hold on. I can't even finish.
I'm gonna disconnect and reconnect.
I already know people are gonna start freaking out. This happens every time. Every time.
Yes.
I literally make one.
It happens every time I quote a tweet.
No, I make one statement, and I can't even get to the second part. The second part's the part y'all are going to get really mad about.
Because it's so retarded.
Let's let Gibbs do it.
Listen, no offense, Hunter. Like, listen, if we were talking about retarded statements being needed to be interrupted every time you open your mouth ever to talk on any panel, you would have been interrupted. But now no offense, but we're not doing that. So what we're going to do now is every time I make a statement, knowing this, the first statement is going to be interrupted. We can't get to the second part. And so what I've started doing is I've just played into it. Because I'll send somebody like Lactoid, if it's a thing I know I want to really get into and just see the explosion. I'll send someone like Lactoid or other people who I know will be on the panel, the actual sources. And then I'll come in here and I'll post the triggering source. And I know y'all just going to go, oh, and like whatever. And so when y'all sit here and go, oh, AI, hold on. I'm not done. I know when I sit here and talk about AI, and y'all talk about AI, y'all are doing the exact same thing the people with the AI that brain go. Nobody can understand anymore in a blurb, right? Anymore. Nobody. And so when we sit here and give you the AI, y'all go, oh God, and you didn't fact check, It doesn't matter if we fact check. Y'all go, there was no fraud in Somalian fraud, and then I go, well, there's 80 convictions. You're like, what's the source? And I'll post like Benny Johnson as a troll, and you're like, oh God, it's Benny. But if you just go to the actual US government website, they have the exact same info. And you're like, Gibbs, you do the work. No, I made the claim and I provided a source. You didn't like the source. You provide better sources. Or how about just stop playing source bullshit games and crying every time? That's a better idea because you look like a jackass.
Gibbs, you're right. I concede. You baited me into me thinking that you're a retard, and everyone thought that you were a retard, and you are the real mastermind because everyone thinks that you're retarded.
That's good.
It's smart.
I'd rather them
it's smart. It's a smart ploy.
Yeah,
I don't know what the end game is. To me, it feels like the end game is just everyone thinks that you're retarded.
Well, and then I end up being right every
single
time. Well, it's because y'all think y'all are like, this is the problem. This is the big problem why they didn't even voted for Madani, in my opinion. Listen, all these uppity, educated, Ivy League fucks, and then their midwit brethren have all gotten into power and for a long time, and now they're mad that the power swings the other way. And guys that are working in the oil field in Texas are making more money than you fucks that spend all this money on your degree and don't have two pennies to rub together. That's what's happening. AI has changed the game. Sucks to suck for y'all bitches.
How do you think AI is fueling middle class people? Like, if anything, it's hitting the Silicon Valley like tech millionaires.
Are you serious right now?
That's not necessarily true.
That's not true at all. I know thousands of people that are using AI.
Well, right now, hold on.
No. But who is gaining the most amount of money?
Let me explain. Well, you can't.
I don't
think
finance is a zero-sum game for sure. But
like, people are always going to gain the most amount of money because they have the most, assets to begin with to invest. But when you talk about like utility in terms of a percentage of their existing assets. Right now, you're seeing a lot more for the rich because it's in the investment phase. So all the investment is going to rich AI and hardware developers. But over time is
Just
where you're
wait.
going to see a lot
Just
more.
wait.
You're going to see a lot more like
It's gonna happen. I promise,
individual-
guys. It's gonna happen.
It's already happening.
What's gonna
They
happen?
just haven't.
I
They
mean,
just
AI is
they have
useful for regular
invested.
people for everything, like all sorts of stuff. You can
Well,
write a script to do stuff for you,
Not,
like save
not
you
regular
time.
people. I'm talking about even business owners, but business owners who aren't like giga rich. They have already invested in AI, but obviously you don't get return on the investment immediately. It happens over time. And a lot of them, it is helpful. They don't have to hire as many people. They can do more complex operations with their existing staff. Like it's going to help a lot of small businesses scale to mid-size at least.
I understand. Just to be
Maybe.
clear, the only argument that I'm saying is one, AI, we are all banking on AI success right now when we don't know the regulations that are going to occur, and we don't know
Sure.
there might be some very it might be a little bit logarithmic, the growth, if that makes sense. Like we might be
No,
on
and I agree. I'm skeptical about the AI bubble, like in a heavy way. I would be considered an AI skeptic, but I think from that small business to mid-sized business, I think that'll be the thing least likely to be hit with regulation because that's just like your local HVAC company can now have an AI dispatcher instead of having to hire somebody.
It's not that they would be hit with regulations; it's that the AI that they would be using would be hit with regulations, so they can't use it anymore.
So I mean, look, Nexus gamers who normally just reviews fucking like PC parts have done like some really really great work on like tracking down where money is going. They did an entire like hour and a half documentary going to China, looking at the export laws on GPUs, talking to Chinese factories. I would suggest absolutely checking out. They've done great work. Wall Street Journal got mad at them because they had a shit version of like where they went out into the desert and filmed the data center with some sand and then wrote some reporting that they had no idea what they were talking about. Because I mean, it's Wall Street Journal.
Well, yeah, Gamers Nexus did a really good piece on it. I liked it.
They've done a lot of really good work on this. What I would say is, obviously nobody knows the future. If you knew the future, there's a whole bunch of philosophical problems with that, right? That being said, right, the Trump administration, acquiring 10% of Intel because he's the most socialist president we've had in our lifetime, as evil as he is in that domain, acquiring Intel, you have Jensen, donating to Trump's fucking ballroom and being buddy, with this kind of like this circle amount of money that is going in between, Palantir and OpenAI and Microsoft and Intel and Nvidia kind of just passing the money around. The fact of the matter is two things. We have over $800 billion invested in capital investment in OpenAI alone, and they only have like 20 billion in deliverables, which is like the craziest ratio to ever exist in human history.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, what I would say is when you have that much money and the Department of Defense is also investing billions and has 3.4 billion in DoD contracts promised to Intel, where Palantir is working with Nvidia, and then you have the Trump administration coming out and saying that he is going to use the full force of the the Department of Justice and use his lawyers on any states that attempt regulation of AI because this needs to be a federally regulated thing. I think most of the people with a brain, with money, are investing in this because even though it is a bubble, it is going to be a government protected bubble with limited regulation. And it is going to be a bubble with billions and billions of tax dollars pumped into it so that we can kill better, killing machines.
That's pretty horrifying, though, right?
I mean, I'm pro AI. I'm not pro what's being done with AI.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a positive or negative opinion on the technology necessarily. I'm just saying when it comes to the vast majority of the benefit going to rich people, I just have a problem with it because one, it's a little short-sighted, and two, all of the money going to rich people is also largely coming from rich people. So if we're looking at like net balance of rich getting richer, it's not really rich getting richer, poor getting poorer. It's some rich getting richer and some rich getting poorer, and they're probably going to get fucked on their investments. But it's not a lot of poor people like dumping their life savings into AI investment. And the more
the government is involved in this, the worse it's going to be for poor people, right? Like anytime the government gets involved in anything, it's going to hurt the poor and the middle class.
There's the fucking
predominantly the middle class. Yeah, well, I'm always right, brother?
True.
Of course I got to bring in the fact that the government's bad when the government's doing things.
Government is
it's always bad when it's doing things, right? So the more the government's involved in this, the less likely it is that these corporations, if they are in a bubble, which I think there's obviously a bubble, it's just whether or not the whole industry is a bubble or if it's just malinvestment because nobody knows what they're doing.
Exactly. It's like
But the more the
dot-com
government is
bubble where-
involved, the more these businesses are going to be protected from actually failing, and the more it's just going to fuck over the poor and the middle class when it blows up because the government is sucking corporate cock instead of letting businesses fail.
Yeah, but if they're, I mean, they're like what 40% of the S&P 500 right now. If they fail, it's the middle class worker that feels that, right? It's not just some billionaire who.
Because
No, in your world, in the libertarian world, in the libertarian world,
completely incorrect.
How so?
What do you mean? So? You made the claim.
No. I'm saying the tech companies are like, I don't know. I think like 30%, or sorry, AI companies are like 30% of the S&P 500 right now. I don't know the numbers, but it's something really high. That's where a lot of the bubble is. If the government doesn't bail them out, if they fail, everyone who has like a basic 401k gets fucked because they're all relying on the stock market.
It's predominantly the middle class. Yeah.
Right.
That's what he was saying.
That's if the government doesn't step in. If the government does, then it protects the middle class. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, but the problem is created by the government stepping in the first place, right?
Explain that.
You have a bubble. I just explained it, right? Like
it preserves the
when
bubble.
You have billions, when you have
I can't hear both of you guys. Sorry.
Right. When you have Intel, which was getting its teeth kicked in by AMD. And the only reason Intel was still fucking doing well is because it had a lot of government and large corporate contracts. And even then, AMD, with their Threadrippers and some of their server tech and some of their like Epic cards and things like that, was starting to supplant Intel. Right? We saw like, they built the Xbox, they built the PlayStation, they did Netflix's servers, right? And then Big Daddy government says, well, Intel, we need chips, the CHIPS Act, we need a stronger America. So what we're going to do is we're going to acquire 10% of Intel, and we're going to put up is a promise of $3.6 billion in future DoD contracts with Intel. That's not a free market. And so investors go, well, I can invest in AMD, who's getting their ass kicked by NVIDIA in this AI GPU market, and who the government isn't protecting while they're protecting their competitor Intel. Well, obviously that's safe money. If the government owns 10% of this and the government's promising billions in contracts, I'd be an idiot not to get on this boom, because if it busts, the government's going to stop me from losing all my money because I'm an investor in Intel. And it creates a bigger bubble because the government is picking favorites and is basically signaling to the market of capital investment that they're going to protect these businesses if they fail. And so it creates the bubble itself.
For sure. I'm going to largely agree with you in this particular case, but I think that your worldview does not apply to all government subsidies. But in this case, I think AI, I think you are spot on that the government should have their hands off of it.
And let's leave it at that.
Prime.
Just follow my logic through to the other things, and you'll see.
Every time I jump on a panel,
can you do the same thing for like ag subsidies now for them so they understand why?
He has. I think Prime wants to get to the panel topic.
Yeah. I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I just like people were saying stuff about AI that I'm like, hold on, we got to talk about the links a little better.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's no offense to you, Hunter Kozak, if you're not like a super nerd about like the
AI for Scott is like Elon for
things
Prime.
in that.
No.
I'm an AI supporter, but it's because I want to see it done right.
I'm just saying,
you
want to distract Fabian. Talk about AI.
This is the greatest labor-saving device to ever be invented in human history, and potentially ever will be invented in human history.
People can afford
and
the
so
rent
it's super fucking important that this is done right, and that this isn't controlled as a mechanism to make the rich and powerful more rich and powerful by aggression against people and the market and their liberty to be able to benefit from the greatest labor-saving device in human history.
Yeah. I'm curious, Fabian, like what happens if all of the benefits are as good as they are, as people are hoping for AI, and we basically don't have to work? Do you support a UBI as a libertarian and just say that this is a specific case, or do you say that the market will still?
No, I don't support a UBI. That would be retarded.
Okay,
there's
so
no reason to have a UBI because
How do we?
Because the market already has a price mechanism. If the whole concept is stupid to add like if you take a utopian worldview, right, that all of these companies will have their productivity like just skyrocket through the roof, right, and then nobody has any like good paying job. Well, then it doesn't matter if they're super productive if they
Prices
have
would
nothing
go
to
down,
sell
yeah.
to people, and so prices go down because. And so what would happen is that you don't need a UBI because it only costs $25 at the grocery store and your rent is $100. And so you can get like a small creative or artistic or like, craftsman job that could easily pay for all these things. If the argument is this is so great, we need UBI, then economically you just could take the UBI out of it and let the prices fall.
Yeah, right.
It's just an unnecessary extra step.
You look at the
assuming that it's
practicality.
utopic in the way.
Yeah.
No, but that was part of the
presented.
premise that I was handing to you. So.
For sure. I'm
yeah.
just reminding the
No,
audience.
for sure.
And that premise, if it's as good as it could be, right? Everyone is always going to be outcompeted by someone who will go cheaper. And so if a builder, say for your home, like, okay, now we can build homes with AI and like AI bots all of a sudden, right? Well, am I going to pay a builder to use their AI bots and their AI, or will another company come through that just says, we'll sell you the bot. You can build 3 houses with the bot and the AI, and now you can sell 2 of them and keep one. It's just constant downward price pressure with the productivity. I mean,
and then there'll be some rich dude that wants his fucking deck built by Amish because he like appreciates the minor little
paper,
details.
Right? Just like socialism on paper sounds great, but then in practice,
That's
but
I don't.
capitalism lifted,
Capitalism
is the only thing that sounds good on paper.
I don't care. Thank you.
Let's talk about kidnapping dictators. Woo!
Because of capitalism.
So before then, hey Scott, did you put any more thought into which movie you want to watch?
Well, I mean, I figured we kind of talk about it like poll wise with everybody, like on stream. Like I you know what I do have one that I have not yet seen that could be potentially have like woke elements in it or could potentially be super good. I would love to like watch and then talk about Sinners.
Okay. I've already seen it.
I haven't seen it.
It's pretty good. I don't think best movie, but
yeah. So I haven't seen it. I mean, if it's out on some platform that I can access one way or another.
When you say platform and you say access, do you mean access through a fee or access through clicking a button?
He wants to click a fee and watch. He wants to click a link and watch a movie.
I channel your Chinese ancestors as always, right? I channel their.
Have I got the links for you, Prime? I'll send them out.
Yeah, I mean anything that's on any platform is on the good ones. So
yeah. So anyway, right. If it's something I can access, then sure. I'm sure
we can find something for you.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do, I had sent for everyone else in the on the panel. I sent our friend Scott a message a while ago, and I thought there might be a fun thing that we could do. Maybe because conservatives, right? Gibbs has done this. Lactoid much less so, and definitely Scott. Like we go into our conversations, and movies pop up. And they're talking about like how. These movies, are an example of Hollywood going too far, or having some sort of a like lefty agenda, or like whatever, right? And then being indicative of some sort of shift in the culture and all that. Anyway, like, and obviously you guys aren't the only ones. There's a whole like sub niche of like YouTube, like specifically about this, right? And it's difficult to engage, especially because it happens all the time, like in the middle of our regular conversations, right? And like I don't want to like stop the panel to like focus on this thing. And so like I offered to do something with Scott in which we both watch a movie, and like one that is indicative of that sort of milieu. I'm using fancy words now. I'll try it. But indicative.
You sound like one of them woke Netflix writers that make overly complex conversations.
Yeah, And then we just talk about it.
Like people don't talk like this. What are you talking about?
I don't know. But anyway, I wanted to just like have a conversation rather than like, debate, whether, this is a good thing, it's a bad thing, right? I'm just like, I really want to like understand the conservative perspective here.
Right.
Because because
I mean,
it will
I'm
probably be
conservative,
vitriolic.
but Avatar is woke and Avatar fucking rocks, so I don't care.
Well, hold on. Is Avatar woke
Hell yeah.
anymore? I don't know.
Okay, we can go.
What do you mean it's not woke?
Well, see, the thing about Avatar is
There's racism and
the thing about Avatar is it's really,
literally Native Americans good. The movie.
you say that.
James Cameron's pretty woke.
Literally, like
You say
that is the movie.
And then it's like the humans, even though they lose each film, take over more of the planet. So it's like human supremacy always.
But that's not fucking shown as good.
Yeah,
In
not
the same way that
I
like
think
Star
it
Wars
is. I think it
isn't
is
pro
shown
death Darth
No,
Vader,
it
even
says
though
literally
he
the
No,
largely
Palpatine
wins.
was right. He was the good guy in that. What are you talking about?
It literally says the very powers of existence rail
He
back
saved
against
all these
overdevelopment.
people from these
Like-
pedo Jedi, capturing the kids and holding them hostage and training them in a
Hey,
cult.
listen,
You're welcome.
Avatar is
Star Wars
woke.
fans.
Avatar is
cult.
also libertarian, but it's woke and libertarian. That's what I love about it.
How's it?
I mean,
it's
the new one, the
libertarian.
guy,
Is government bad?
very human supremacist.
Yeah,
very pro-alien.
basically.
Palpatine literally did like train kids as well.
I don't know how
like,
libertarian
it
it
is,
is, though.
but
It's
He only had to
coercion
use
that
it to
Definitely
fight
wouldn't
fire
say
with
that.
fire, and it was one kid.
okay. So no. Sorry. First of all, there's
Palpatine
more,
is a
right? If you're
groomer.
talking about the extended universe.
Just throwing that out there.
Let's not talk about Disney's
100%.
shit
And those
movies,
are other
okay?
people's
Star
shit.
Wars
They
sucks,
gave them up.
Avatar
They
rocks,
knew about
okay?
Palpatine groomed Anakin Skywalker. All right.
Yeah.
Only because the Jedi were grooming him first.
Like, I don't. There's not even.
Well,
a
I
bit
would
there.
say
That's exactly
Queen
what happened.
Amidala might have been grooming him first, then the Jedi.
Hell
All
yeah.
right, then Palpatine.
Dude,
All right?
if-
Grooming is bad.
if
Anakin is
grooming-
proof. He
if
was triple
grooming is when
groomed.
Natalie
He became the
Portman does
world's
it,
worst threat.
fucking pro grooming. Holy shit, dude.
I mean, he also got rid of human slavery. No human slavery in the Star Wars Galaxy.
Imagine getting groomed
Wait,
twice.
what are you talking
dying
about? They
in a
actually
fire.
did
Dying
human-
in a
no,
fire.
human
Hold on,
slavery.
What the
Pause.
fuck are you
Pause.
talking about?
Human is real specific if you understand the lore of what he's saying.
But they
Because
did human
Wookiees were
slavery.
enslaved, Twi'leks were
they
enslaved,
got rid of human
prisoners
slavery.
were enslaved.
They did human slavery.
No,
They
no,
did human slavery. What are you talking about?
no, those
During
were
the Empire.
political prisoners.
That's still slavery.
I love that.
Okay, whatever.
I love that
The
you can
gulags.
just reframe
The
anything.
gulags are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not good.
They
As
were
China
working-
says since 1996, we don't have gulags. We have voluntary vocational training.
Yeah,
Yeah,
working.
because you can voluntarily not be a Muslim whenever you want, you know?
Yeah, dude.
It's a 2%
All
tax. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Let's get started.
Well,
but-
I just
all
want to
right,
clarify, or maybe like the goal is to like watch the movie and then like discuss it of like how woke it is or whatnot, or how whatever it has an agenda.
Yes,
what
I-
they see as woke and like if it stands up, I guess.
Yeah, so I want, like I said to our friend Scott, it'd be helpful if I like the movie, if I hate the movie, right? It's like not much I can say about it, right? Oh, I mean, if it's a shit movie, it's a shit movie, Sinners, I think might be a good choice. I don't know if how conservatives feel about it, but I mean, like, it sounds like a good movie, so it's probably a good chance I'll like it.
So,
I
I'm
mean, I
not
was
the
just throwing
authority,
one
but
out
I,
there.
Very
I
racist
don't know
against
how
Native Americans.
I don't know how woke you can say that movie, but like maybe there is.
Well, I was just saying I didn't know that you specifically wanted me to find like a movie that I wouldn't enjoy watching because it's woke, but that you would enjoy watching. Like
Well,
that
you
feels
can't-
like a special type of punishment. But I mean, like,
Well,
you know what I mean? But like,
no,
I was just thinking to pick something that like could be like to just pick movies that like are supposedly good, and then like we would like. I could talk about potential elements, or I could be like, no, this movie isn't that way.
I did this
Right, like-
video. I did this video on TikTok where I looked at movies that people thought were too woke. Star Wars was a classic example, and then I looked at all of the characters in them, and then compared them against the actual statistics
Non-woke
of.
movie characters.
No, I compared them against the diversity in the real world in America,
Oh, okay.
and it was less diverse. And I just
So-
consistently, I found it really funny.
Yeah,
then
I think
here's
it's
a
the
sentence-
it's like the way they're represented, not the proportion, right?
Ew.
Sure, but I think a lot of people complain enough about the proportion that it's worth. I'm only
Sure,
specifically
yeah,
tackling
there are a
that.
lot of
Here's the
dumbasses
sentence
out there.
I said.
Who
to
the
you
fuck is
in our-
saying that?
Here's
Like,
the
talk
sentence
about
Who the fuck is
about-
saying how? Why are there so many black people in Star Wars now? Who's saying that? I could find tons.
Yeah,
of people
you're like a
saying that.
Reddit meme come to life. Like, this is so
Me?
funny. Like,
But
yes.
I've talked to
Twitter.
Saxiums
Maybe,
a lot.
where
He's
were you
not
here
that
last
bad.
week?
this is
all the people on the right wing are like, there's too many blacks in my
Who said
Star
all
Wars.
the people? I'm just saying I was countering an
he said
argument I
plenty of
saw a
people.
lot.
I say that
The-
shit. By the way, how's my mic? By the way, is that coming through pretty good?
It's
Yeah,
not a
it's
good
fine.
mic, but it's coming
What?
through.
Yeah.
Shit,
It's
Mike,
every
it's
conservative.
fine.
I'm gonna
It's
keep
like-
getting closer.
It's like you're.
I
a
told you to
helicopter
get a
pilot.
dedicated
But,
mic. I'll send you a full, cheap option.
No, this is a mic. I have to
Lactoid,
do
do
it
we
this
need to
way.
put, do we need to
'cause-
put up a donation link?
No, but
brother?
like,
No, I
hold on.
just got this.
also,
he
I
can't afford
yeah,
I
it.
could
you
He's
point
need
to
another
Elon
one is
Musk
what I'm
saying
saying
shit
is
like
the
that.
issue.
No, you're
Okay,
right, Saxiums. People do say that. There's no reason to deny
just
it.
got this. Give me a
It may
second.
be a minority of the criticism, but it is
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
there's
No,
a,
it's
there's
not-
a
That's
big
fair.
group that does say that.
Okay, look. All right. So this is what the sentence I sent to our friend Scott in our DM.
Now do
right?
acolyte.
It's possible. It's possible he put this through an AI to like summarize this for me, so he doesn't have to read. But I don't know. I said you can either hate the movie, suspect that you'll hate the movie, or maybe even like the movie but have large issues with it because of its liberal ideological bent. So you don't have to necessarily hate the movie. But like honestly, if you don't have a problem with the movie, well then there's not much to talk about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There
You're
could
gonna
be
watch
issues.
the
Talk
Marvels?
about how he's
You could
wrong
be
about
like,
how
where-
movies are woke.
Exactly.
Marvel.
Like
Can't
what
find a
what
movie,
other
yeah.
movies did wrong that maybe this liberal movie does better? Because there's a lot of movies where I know I'm being indoctrinated to liberal ideals that I don't care because like they did it in a tasteful and transparent way.
That's why I said
Where
that
they're
gave
not-
him a
Yeah,
third
no,
option.
sometimes
You
you
can
can
like
like
the
art.
movie.
But also
Like,
sometimes
be-
you could just watch a movie and not think
Yeah.
about like, are they trying to indoctrinate? Just watch.
Well,
the
no,
movie.
there are some like even like I never watch a movie thinking about it, but like there are some where it is super obvious anyway, but they
Yeah,
do
that's
it
just a
super,
bad movie.
They do no sometimes
No,
it's good.
no, like
They
you
do
can
it
look at like
No,
something
I'll
like
give you-
It's
no,
a Wonderful
I'll
Life
give you
or
a good
something like
example.
that, which
Exactly,
is so
yeah.
clearly like communitarian. It's so clearly like about whatever. It's a little anti
I was gonna
business
say-
owner and stuff like that, and fighting
But
the
it
big.
doesn't-
men.
I would say
But it
it's,
doesn't
it's
honor-
a, like
It's a reasonable argument, and it's not something
Yep.
you can fight against, and it's done integrated into the story well enough where that's part of the story that not a lot of people have issues with.
Yeah. And it's honest. It's
Yeah,
like
I would
Avatar
say,
is honest, right? That's the reason why it's okay that it's super woke.
I would actually pick a different Avatar as a great example of this.
Sure.
The original Nickelodeon show, Avatar.
Mhm.
The original Nickelodeon show, all 3 seasons, is like very, very well done, very well written. I mean, it's beloved by many millennials because it is like a great story of like, a hero's journey, while at the same time Zuko is like, an entire story of like masculinity and like what it means to grow up an angry teen and deal with trauma and all this stuff. There's great wisdom in it, but also
Uncle Iroh,
like,
baby.
like every episode or two, there has to be like some like feminist talking point of
Well,
like
Sokka's-
women are just as strong as
Yeah.
as men. In fact, women are better warriors, and we're so much strong. We can beat you up whenever, and you better learn to not be a misogynist, Sokka. But nobody fucking cares because like the overall theme and narrative and story and structure is very, very well done.
Well, it's also that
despite the fact that you're
Sokka-
being preached to.
It's also that Sokka is a misogynist, and that it like he's so aggressive that it's worth challenging.
He is
that
like, oh,
idea.
you're
Like,
a
you don't
girl,
have
you
to.
can't fight. And
And
that's
that's
like he has
like-
no
That's a
bending
pretty
ability.
realistic.
Well,
I'm not saying that's everyone, but that's certainly.
They do
some.
it
I
the
mean,
right-
dude
they do it
gets
the
pretty
right way.
badass with the boomerang
Yeah,
and
but
the
hold
sword
on,
at the
like,
end.
He is
all right?
pretty, yeah, he's
Y'all
pretty-
Oh, yeah,
no
but
one's
he-
saying Sokka's not cool.
Y'all gotta
Well, no,
do
so
something
what-
though
what
that
they
everybody.
show-
The
what they-
problem isn't like the when it's a good one, right? That's the problem y'all have. It's not that. It's something like when it's a good show and then they shoehorn something in. And I'll use an example.
We're talking about what makes it good, though. That's
Hold
the
on. I
conversation we're
understand.
having.
I understand that.
This
We've had that
fucking
conversation.
Zoom option.
Yeah, it's crazy. But listen, I'll tell you one where it's bad.
You can turn that
Stranger
off.
Things.
You, the one
I
that
could.
turned it on.
Yeah, I could, but it's learning. It's a learning AI. It learns based on your hand.
It hasn't learned in months.
It learns. It
It's
says
just
3
click
to 6.
one button.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not
like-
I've only had
learning.
it for 2
Learn
months.
it.
It takes 3 to 6. 3 to 6. 3 to 6. Anyway, I was gonna say though, like it's worse when it's like a good show and then they do something egregious. Like Stranger Things always leave a little left, but then the last episode, there's like they're about to go fight the big bad and they're gonna go beat him on because one
You're
guy's
about to
gonna
spoil
beat
it. I
him.
don't know if everybody wants.
Yeah,
to.
that's just a little
we're not gonna
fresh.
spoil it. Don't worry, but you're gonna get this part spoiled. I'm sorry. Homie's gonna go beat what's his name?
I'm not gonna
gay
spoil it, but I am
speech-
gonna spoil it.
Yeah,
I saw me.
He's gonna
I don't
beat
care
them because of the
The
power
gay
of gayness.
speech is like 15 seconds longer than
Yeah,
Trump's than the Trump administration's
it's ridiculous.
kidnapping of Maduro. It took the American military less time to get Maduro and extract him than it did for Will to be like, my gay superpowers are.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
it was.
I
it
think
was
the issue
too
there
much.
is just
like
bad
that's
writing
too much.
overall.
Yeah,
Versus
hold
like
on.
the acolyte is like
Yeah,
bad overall
no.
kind of thing.
No, Gibbs, I don't think that's the case because I think even an otherwise good piece of
pretty
art
good.
can
It
engage with
was
some of these
utter
feminist
garbage.
ideals and become bad. The thing with that Avatar, Last Airbender did really well was it wasn't the fact that Sokka was pointing out the biological differences between men and women. It was that he was seeing woman as an unovercomable obstacle to being a warrior. And it was pointing out the factual reality that there are other things that can make a woman a better warrior than a guy who is lazy and who writes everyone off and is arrogant. And he became a good warrior because he realized, oh, there are no unovercomable obstacles. So I can't judge that I'm going to whoop someone's ass just by looking at them. I actually have to put in that same effort myself.
But are y'all talking
to
about that little
control
fruity show with the
their
bald kid?
overcoming
Like
of
that
the
looks like
obstacles.
Caillou? Is that what y'all talking about?
Don't fucking disrespect
You're
Avatar.
talking about
You're not
Caillou,
doing that.
bro?
You're not doing that.
I don't want to hear nothing
No one's
about
on
the
your
Caillou
side.
show, bro. I don't care. That's a terrible show.
But yeah, it's like the
That's-
difference between Brave and Captain Marvel. Like Brave talks about woman is not an unovercomable obstacle, whereas Captain Marvel was like woman is my superpower, and it's
Sure.
you know lame.
I
That's
agree
not
with that.
exactly what that was, but we'll have to.
Well, I haven't seen Captain
that'd be a
Marvel, but I do
What
agree
is
that
the
that is
Avatar
what
guy's
makes a
superpower?
bad
Well, then
Baldness?
this
or
you
baldness?
shouldn't
Is that
take
his
their word
power?
for it then. But
It was a terrible
so
movie.
we'll have to agree to disagree.
Gibbs,
why don't we
you
just
are
get
a
started?
fucking perfect rage baiter. I love you.
Why don't we just get started? But thanks, friends, and hopefully we can set that up. I think it'll be a good conversation. All right. Hello, everyone. This is Every Roundtable, which we do Mondays, 8 p.m. Eastern. We've got a great group of guests here. Excited about what
Wait,
we'll
Gibbs
get
is
up
here.
to. Indeed. Excited about what we'll get up to. I think it'll be a fun conversation. Hopefully, right? Consider supporting the channel if you like our conversations so far. Our meandering starts these, and look, it's only taking 40 minutes. I think that's a steal. Consider supporting the channel, following the channel, subscribe to the channel, or use super chats. We'll put your super chat on screen, and we'll stream, and we'll have a conversation about it. It'll be a lot of fun. So consider helping us out that way, if you could be so kind. And if not, I guess that's cool too. All right, so we'll get started. Why don't we do introductions first? Lactoid, start us off.
Hi, I'm Lactoid. You can find me at Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube. Lactoid TV.
Thank you. Scott.
Yeah, I am Scott Fabian Liberty. You can find me on YouTube and Zitter, Twitter, X, whatever dumb name we're calling it these days. Anarcho-capitalist with an objectivist tinge, you could say. Follow me for debate panels and philosophy discussions and discussion of libertarianism.
Corey.
Yeah, excited to be here. And looking forward to starting off the year on a panel, even despite the bad music. But you can find me on Twitch, Corey Campbell 84, Twitter, X, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Substack. It's Corey Campbell. Looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Gibbs.
Admiral Gibbs, your political prophet, because everything I say always comes true.
Okay. Thank you for that, Gibbs. Much appreciated. Let's go to Jebtan.
Yep, Jeptan, conservative. Don't really have any stream. I just do it for the love of the game.
Thank you. And Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter Kozak going through a rebranding right now because a lot of different reasons. My name was kind of out there already, so drop Staxium. So I'm just Hunter now. I'm a liberal. I'm on TikTok. I make videos on philosophy and logic and housing and all things liberalism. Excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Sorry, is Hunter Kozak your like government?
Yeah,
Oh, okay. Huh.
but it's already out there, so
I mean,
I'm
everybody
might as well
knows
own it.
now. Like,
No, for real.
Yeah, because he
the
killed
whole
Charlie
world
Kirk.
knows his name.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm missing something here, but
Jesus. Prime. I was the one debating Charlie when he died.
That's
really?
That's the meat.
Yes,
he was
he
literally
asked
Yes.
lots of
asked him a
questions.
question and then had to see all that. So literally,
Yeah.
respect to that's a really hard thing to go through, but also that's the
Oh.
meat I'm sticking with. That you killed him.
Yeah, true.
I'm sorry, buddy. I had no idea.
No, it's all good. It happens. I'm glad I don't have to talk about it every
on the internet.
No.
So-
It's like it's not something I whatever. It's like I'm kind of glad that I can be in spaces and not be known as that, but like did happen. Pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everyone sort of knows who I am anyway, so might as well just
That's
own
fair.
it.
Embrace it.
Yeah.
Also, is Kozak Ukrainian?
Polish.
Okay.
But it might be it was kind of like the borders shifted so much that I think it might be Ukrainian too, but yeah, Polish.
Understood. Okay, thank you so much, friend. And finally, our friend Ali.
What's up? My name's Ali. I go by Sociologic on X. I'm the everyman on these panels, so thanks for having me, Prime.
Okay, yeah, Gibbs, send me that link.
Okay,
But anyway, so I'll read the topic and we'll jump into it. Okay, all right. Okay, there we go.
that was the topic. I have ideas.
Fucking hell.
The banner almost has nothing to do with the topic questions. We've come to realize.
Yeah,
it's like, it doesn't have.
it fucks up my entire. It fucks up my entire.
Last
UI,
time
'cause I
we got
have to get rid of
distracted
it.
by the banner.
Cuba. We should have made Cuba.
You remember?
I'll answer that for you.
This. I think this has everything.
What Cuba out of all of the countries to invade?
Iran.
The cigars, the women, the cars.
I
just
wanna
for
get
profit.
Puerto Rico right first. If we
Yeah,
can get
of
Puerto
course.
Rico right
Like, why else
first,
would we do
Yours
it?
aren't even
then
that
we can
good.
move on to,
Dominicans are
the
better.
Other islands, right?
So
Let's just get
I
PR first.
I think I have a spot on banner, but let's just get started. The U.S. has just invaded Venezuela and captured its president. Maduro is now in U.S. custody awaiting trial. The international community has either roundly condemned this action or tepidly chided it. Domestically, many GOP politicians have endorsed the action, while Democrats question its legality. Some people say that this is a violation of Trump's America First agenda. Do you believe that Trump has broken his promises to the American people? Do you think the world should be fearful of additional U.S. interventions? And does international law even mean anything anymore? The big story, from a Western perspective, I guess, any which way, is the frankly stunning capture of Maduro. I just on a personal level, I didn't expect us to be able to do it so cleanly, but we fucking did it. So you got to give him props to that. But then again,
You do not, in fact, have to give props. What's that? What's that drill tweet? You know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know what you're talking about. We did also get Hugo Chavez that one time as well. So maybe it's easier than I think. I don't know. Whatever. So we captured him. Taking him in custody. Obviously, this is after like a few months of like bombing fishermen, narco traffickers, off the coast of Venezuela, Trump has then said, right, like in a following news conference, that America is going to run Venezuela, right? Very light in the details of what that looks like. Venezuela is now headed by the former vice president, right? So Maduro's vice president is now the president. She started off quite defiant in the face of U.S. aggression, and then she seemed to have moderated herself. So who knows? And Venezuela is a hell of a country. right? It really is. It's a hell of a country, like just on so many
Sorry.
levels.
She's
But
laughing. She moderated herself. Maybe may have had a little bit of help.
yeah, no, it's fair. Right, yeah, but yeah. So anyway, Venezuela, like if Trump is threatening boots on the ground, if that's really what he means, then Venezuela won't be an easy one to subdue. And so, this is what's happening now. Around the world, there's been so many different reactions to this. You know, the usual suspects, the ones who are against us, were like, "This is BS," right? And then the ones who are with us, our allies, are all like, "We don't love this, but we want a democratic transition, international law, something, whatever," right? So I just kind of want to have like a whole roundup of that, right? Like our thoughts on the situation. What do you think? How this interacts with Trump's domestic promises to his audience? What do you think this means for the future in terms of the U.S. and international law, right? Does that mean anything anymore? And does this portend additional interventions in other places? So yeah, I said a lot, but let's get started with opening statements. Lactoid.
All right. So to, I guess, better explain my opinion, I'd like to split my opinion into two different parts: the kind of legal aspect of this, which is brought up in the intro, in the prompt, and then my general predisposition towards the military action. So, legally speaking, I am of the opinion that it's very, very likely legal. I think it's more likely that it was legal than unlikely by a pretty significant degree. I'm probably sitting over 85% now at this point, maybe even over 90%. I'm pretty convinced that Donald Trump did have the authority to do this, even without consulting Congress first or getting
Gibbs,
authorization.
we can hear you breathing heavily.
And then,
Wow.
so we have that legal aspect, and then there is the kind of ethical question of, okay, well,
It's not me.
now that Trump can do it,
It
was
this
it a
guy.
good thing that he
Stop
did
You're
it?
muted, yeah.
I don't know. Was it a good thing that he did it? And I think I'm leaning towards it as time goes on. I'm leaning towards it. I'm becoming more comfortable that it was a good thing. And the reason I'm generally opposed to intervention because I'm concerned about things like blowback. I'm concerned about things like us fucking up, which historically has happened. We've been pretty good at that. But this operation's been pretty crazy. In the course of 3 hours, we took out a president, and we have him in America. We, not killed him. We arrested him and took him back to America, and
And
we
put them in
lost
the Nike tech, dude. We've been good.
Yeah,
to
we
that
put him in the
man.
Nike Tech,
It's
and we
open.
lost nobody. It's okay. We lost nobody. Now there was I think a little bit more than 40 casualties on the other side, which is sad, right? I mean, that's not good. But if to remove a dictator who is in power through undemocratic means, if removing him takes 40 lives, most of which are Cuban security officers that signed up to guard him, I don't know. I think that as far as military operations go, this is kind of as clean as it gets. I am also more comfortable now that Rubio has walked back some of the more insane statements that were made immediately following the operation. I know Trump said, we're going to go in, we're going to get the fucking oil, we're going to run the country. You know, the shit you don't want to hear immediately after something like this. And then Rubio came out and said, hey, look, guys, we're not going to go in and run the country directly. That's not what we're going to do. We're going to be a little bit more, smart about this. Okay, that's good. That makes me feel a little bit better about this. So, Rubio is making me feel a little bit better about the whole situation. And then they just swore in their vice president, who, from all, we don't know. I kind of agree with Scott. We don't know exactly what's going on, but she seems to be pretty open to working with the U.S. At least she has said so openly, that she wants to come to some kind of negotiated settlement with the U.S. And I think demanding some kind of oversight, free and fair elections for Venezuela, if we get that, then this will have been a win. Removing a dictatorship, getting free and fair elections for Venezuela at a cost of 40 lives, primarily Cuban security officers guarding the president, guarding the dictator, because that's what Maduro was. I think overall, I mean, things are looking good. So I'm generally approve of this, and my mind can be changed if we start fucking shit up, or if whatever courts start ruling against the administration, I can start to shift. But so far, so good.
Um, I've heard, and obviously I don't have any better information than our friend Lactoid, but I've heard it's been 80 people who died, on the Venezuelan side, and civilians, too, like houses that
Maybe
are
just
bombed.
the
I don't think they
number
were
up.
targeted or anything, but like I think they still died, you know. But again, I don't have that information. So there, who has kids who are crying in the background? Am I having
Well,
Definitely-
Oh,
definitely
those
not
are
me.
mine. I'm sorry.
And
I'll
the
mute
Do you have
myself.
kids? Okay, seriously, I didn't know that.
Of course
Okay.
I have two
I'm
kids, yeah.
always getting blamed
Oh,
for the
okay.
hot
Just
mic.
turn your gain
Always
down a
getting
little
blamed.
bit.
I didn't
I'm
think it was
sorry.
you, Gibbs. No,
I'll
I
mute
didn't think
myself more.
It was
No,
this
no,
motherfucker.
No, look at him.
You've
He's
done it.
talking. Of
You've
course
done
he
it.
has kids.
The Zoom.
You've done it a bunch.
The Zoom.
I didn't blame you for the kids. The breathing heavy, I thought it was you because let's be honest,
Yeah, fair.
you
Sorry
and
about
I
that.
are the only people here that are fat enough to audibly breathe heavy most of the
I
time.
mean,
and
that's
it's not
true.
me, so it's
Yeah.
probably you.
Well, that's true.
I'm
And
sorry, guys.
number two,
No worries.
you've done
You're
it a lot of times before.
I also got to say, it's not
All
going to be the
true.
fat as the reason I'm going to be breathing heavy. I'm just saying.
Oh.
All right.
It's that.
That's a contributing factor. You can't deny that.
Okay.
I would say
okay,
there were some
no-
other
no
contributing
variable
factors that
whatsoever.
probably contributed more.
Let's go to our friend.
He was
Scott.
born with that deviated septum, okay?
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So, couple of things. One, situation seems kind of weird right now. A lot of reports of gunfire and different things going on. We don't really know what's happening. Pentagon Pizza Index peaked pretty decently last night or tonight at 6. We have it like double what it usually is. So I mean, so the situation may be changing as we speak right now, or it could just be typical violence. On the other hand, the General Stock Exchange for Caracas closed, 17% up, right? So the people with money obviously are thinking they're going to make money. So the way that I'm of two minds about this. I'm not. That's not true. I'm not of two minds. I have a fairly center position, which is like, fuck Maduro. You know what I mean? Like, nothing that happens to Maduro could be like bad, right? Like, there's no level of torture or death that could happen to a socialist dictator that like wouldn't make me go to bed better that night. Like, like if I heard horrible things happen to him, like if I heard that the government was like, we got him in a helicopter and we decided to do the South American meme and pushed him out of the helicopter, I would giggle and I'd sleep like a fucking baby. That being said, I do think that there is, I disagree with Lactoid, not necessarily literally per se, in terms of the way the Constitution is often interpreted, right? But I would say that I don't think the founders envisioned, secret wars against other nations that we don't even tell Congress about, much less seek their approval so that we can go get a drug trafficker, quote unquote. Obviously, drug trafficking is a part of this, but I think it's kind of a bullshit. I think everybody knows it's a bullshit cover, right? I mean, the Biden administration, had oh god, now I can't think of his name. That he prosecuted for drug charges that Trump then pardoned. Meanwhile, the Biden
The
administration,
interim president.
yeah, I couldn't remember his name. But then at the same time, the Biden administration also charged and then did a prisoner release with Maduro's nephew and nephews, right? Like, so like this has very, very little to do with narco terrorism. This has almost everything to do with the fact that Venezuela has been supported by Russia and China. Is a partner in BRICS in all but name. That they are quote unquote smuggling oil to Cuba. That this is about going after our enemies and going after our enemies specifically that are trading oil in the world, not using the US dollar as a reserve currency, which is what most wars in the past 50 years America has been involved in have been because of that. That's why we don't like Iran. That's why we fucking fucked around in Syria. That's why why we did Iraq and Afghanistan to a certain degree, or at least a part of the motivation over and over and over again. Anytime someone threatens the US dollar, because we need it to be the reserve currency so we can export our inflation, so we can maintain the American global empire. That's the thing. I think it's evil to a certain extent to this we're going to control the government and we're going to bring in oil companies and we're going to fix their infrastructure, and by the way, we're going to make a bunch of money on it. At the same time, it's like if you look at this purely from like a material conditions perspective, basically anything that happens in Venezuela is going to be better for the Venezuelan people, right? Like we could go in there and like the most evil American empire you can envision is still not going to have regional governors posting TikToks on Christmas saying, "Look at my Christmas dinner," and they're literally eating plastic food because even the regional governors don't have enough money to go to a fucking restaurant, right? Like Venezuela is fucked. And so we're going to extract a bunch of wealth. The American corporations are going to extract a bunch of wealth. We're going to do, Chicago boys, Reagan administration 2.0 likely. It's probably not going to be great for the American public. It's probably not going to be great for Venezuela. But like their individual lives are probably going to be better. And who gives a fuck what happens to Maduro? He's an evil piece of shit.
Okay, thank you so much, Corey.
Well, yeah, I'll keep it short to get to the open. But I can, let's say, the sentiment that Lactoid expressed in terms of like, let's say, if in fact it leads to good outcomes, which it may very well could, but like, I don't know that justifies doing what was done in terms of pretty much kidnapping Maduro. Now, I can't speak to the legality of it. I guess I'll let the other legal experts take care of that. But let's say I can grant that Maduro seems like a horrific person. But then if that's the case, again, I'm sort of like speculating. One might think that, the United States could, get some international support to do what they did, as opposed to just doing it unilaterally, or doing it unilaterally and also like somewhat secretly. Because like, if in fact they're a terrible person, then I would assume the international community would largely be on board with like removing this horrible dictator. And so, yeah, I'm a little bit mixed in terms of this scene. As of now, I lean towards this not being an overly good thing. Despite that, there's the potential that it might be good outcomes. I can also get on board with what Scott just outlined of like this might improve the material conditions of people in Venezuela. But I also take issue with the fact of like I don't know how much faith that I put in Marco Rubio's words in terms of the backtracking. Like I don't know why you would ever take anything Rubio says seriously. Oh, now Lactoid's comforted. Rubio has always like pretty much bowed to whoever it is that's in power. If Trump wants to do whatever he wants to do, then he's probably going to find a way to get it done. So I don't know why you would take any words take any words of comfort from Rubio. But to pretty much explicitly answer the questions in the prompt, do I think that this breaks the promises that Trump made to the American people? I think the answer is yes. Do I think the world should be fearful of additional U.S. interventions? I think, this sends a bad precedent overall. Or, for example, what ground would the U.S. have to stand on if, let's say, China, did something to Taiwan or whatnot? I think that sort of undermines any sort of like moral authority potentially. And yeah, I'll leave it there for now.
Thank you so much. And let's go to. I'm. You know what? I'll say this. I'm excited for what my friend Gibbs is going to say. All right.
I think you should go last. I think you should go last. He's going to have the best and the most to contend with, really.
So what do you think about that, Gibbs? Okay. All right. Let's go to Jeb Tan.
Yeah, I genuinely struggle to find even a significant bad part of this. I don't, there's no conversation as to whether it's positive or negative in totality to me at all. I struggle to even find a really big bad part of this outside of this like weird mythos that Trump might become the God King of the US forever. When we operate in reality where Trump is over in a couple years, I don't like, even if he has the worst possible political motives, he just wanted the oil. There's a couple angles to contend with here, and I'll rattle up a few. And most of the arguments against this come out of a pure either ignorance or lack of care of the reality of the situation prior to this event. You hear a lot of people being like, "Oh, the videos of people celebrating are in Chile, so they're not. That's not real." Or, "Oh, a couple of the accounts." a couple of the accounts that are celebrating are in Spain, so it's not legit. That tells me you have no fucking clue what state the Venezuelan people were in before this. There was a mass exodus of over 8 million Venezuelans, which is a really significant part of their population, to other countries because of Maduro. This was a failed state. This was like a genuinely like awful, horrible humanitarian situation that everybody largely ignored, because if it's in Latin America, we just say, it's not the Middle East, so it's not going to be too explosive a bad situation, so we ignore it in favor of like the Middle Eastern conflicts that are more sexy to have like a really bad situation, bold stance on. So Latin American conflicts, we just get bored with them. In favor of like the Middle Eastern conflicts that are more sexy, we just ignore it. There's a lot to unpack. So in the sense of international law, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it's that people need to understand international law is a concept that is still in its infancy. It was built out of an understanding that there was nothing keeping people from operating on different standards across the country, across the world. And once force capability started to get equalized between forces that were on opposite ends of the world, we started to realize we need something here. There is not a strong established international law framework that answers these questions. So far, international law has only applied to people outside of the G5 countries that have veto power in Security Council. And so the idea that international law kind of might say that this is bad doesn't matter, because what did international law do for the Venezuelans when all of the other G5 countries were completely silent? Like nothing happened. They didn't do anything to stop this great evil that happened in Venezuela. So when one of the G5 countries that we've decided just get carte blanche authority on what international law is, decides to take action for whatever reason they want to, I say, cool, whatever. If international law wasn't protecting them, why should international law keep someone from protecting them? It doesn't matter to me at all. As far as other justifications like, oh, well, now they might be a puppet state. We can't trust Rubio and Trump. They might be a puppet state of the US. Is it better that they were a puppet state of BRICS? Because that's what the case was before. Again, it's a misunderstanding of what the existing scenario was. They were already a puppet state for Russia and China. Now they're a puppet state of the US. And if they're going to be a puppet state of either, why not be the puppet state of the one that the Venezuelan populace overwhelmingly supports over the other? They embraced the idea of becoming a Western puppet state over an Eastern puppet state, as most countries do. So it's like, I don't actually think they will be a puppet state of the US. I think we will eventually transfer power to probably not the lady that Trump was discussing, but the one who the guy Edmundo who won the last election in Venezuela. That's probably who will end up with lasting power. And he will probably trade more openly with Western countries and Eastern countries the way that most Western nations do. They trade with Eastern nations all the time, but they also trade with Western ones. Or they might privatize oil altogether, which obviously I see as a positive thing. Let businesses do what they want to do and let people benefit from that. Either way, I think I struggle to find the big issue. There's a legality issue, but in my opinion, if I agree with Lactoid that it was more than likely legal for Trump to do what he did, but if it wasn't, is that a flaw in what Trump did, or was that a flaw in what is legal? Because Obama, Nixon, JFK, they all got to follow the norm in the US of if it takes less than a couple days, you kind of get to do whatever you want. The one time we're taking away a despot, it becomes a problem. Why was Bosnia not a problem then? Why was Colombia not a problem? Why were all of these different special forces raids not a problem? Just because the UN approved of them? Why do we give a fuck? If the UN gets to be silent on Venezuela, I think the US, given the power they have in the UN, gets to say, fuck you guys then. For whatever reason we have, we're going to take this despot away and we're going to make Venezuela great again, or whatever the fuck the justification is. I just don't see a negative outcome out of this. There's no Middle Eastern, Sunni, whatever factions to war over this. It's just if he's out, the other party takes power.
All right. Thank you so much. Let's go.
Sorry, I rambled.
No worries. We aren't unfamiliar with that here. Let's go to our friend Hunter.
You're fucking welcome.
Hi. So, I do agree that the legality issue is maybe not something that we should focus on. But I think that some people are calling this like the 4-hour war or something, and they're saying it's all green flags right now. And I think that we should really be focusing long term what's going to happen over the next few months in Venezuela and recognize that there's probably going to be a lot of really complex nuances and things can get really, really, really hairy really quickly. Couple issues. Firstly, the VP has given some it's a lot of different flags about what specifically we should be doing. She said at one point there is only one president in this country and his name is Nicolas Maduro. She said that I think yesterday or 2 days ago. But then she's also supported, basically the question is, do we keep her? How do we install the next person? There's two competitors because there's one person who was barred from the election and there was another person who basically won, but then Maduro just stepped in anyway. Which of those replacements goes in? Do we do a secondary election? Do we ensure that there are U.S. soldiers to ensure that this is a free and fair election? What happens if they get attacked while they're on Venezuela soil? That is probably the biggest issue that we have. If we have boots on the ground, that's one of the reasons why boots on the ground is such a scary thing. What happens if a Venezuelan who's supportive of Maduro, which I do agree that the vast majority aren't, but there still are factions of the government that are supportive of them, mostly because they've been booted by they haven't been booted by Maduro's essential tyranny. What happens if they attack a U.S. soldier on Venezuela soil? Are we now at war with Venezuela? There's a lot of really, really, really sticky situations that we can get ourselves into that I particularly am pretty worried about, a little bit terrified. There's a reason this isn't typical to do, and that's because when we sort of reign sovereignty as a vassal state over a sovereign state, there's a lot of issues that come from this. So I think that there's a lot of problems that can come from this. And I don't see this going well, but if it goes well, I'm happy that I'm wrong. But I just think that 90% of the situations that end up from this are going to be extremely negative for Venezuela and for the US. Although I'm happy to see Maduro gone.
All right. And we'll go to Ali, then up Fat Gibbs.
Yeah, well, Jeb, we're gonna get your wish. South America is about to become a lot more sexy. So to answer your questions, it's yes, and no for the three that you sent, and then for the prompt, Jeb, this is the problem that's coming that you don't see, right? Even before we started the panel, but before the topic, you were like, no, we're going to invade Iran. Gibbs is all hyped up to invade Greenland and fucking Cuba. He's ready to go to China tomorrow. If America's willing, he's willing to do it. So it's just putting us in perpetual wars or potential wars all over the world in a time where we can't afford, rent. So yeah, I think those are going to be the issues, is that like you guys voted in a guy who promised you no wars. He's going to end all the wars in 1 day, 100 days, whatever the fuck it may be, and hasn't ended any and started a few. Iran and Israel are ramping up more and more. It's not like they've settled after the quote unquote 6 hour war or 6 day war or whatever the fuck they want to call it. And I mean, in terms of like international law, yeah, what's to stop any country from doing whatever the fuck they want? Why was Russia wrong? Like if the land was theirs and they wanted it, and America's allowed to do whatever the fuck they want because, well, look, there's a dictator there. Well, I mean, to Lactoid's point, what's his name? What's the guy's name in
Zelensky?
Yeah, Zelensky's a fucking dictator in accordance to Lactoid. So like Russia's not in the wrong at all. Anyone can kind of do anything so long as like they can justify it. And at this point, might just makes right. If you can win, if you can succeed, then it doesn't matter, right? So, like, I mean, that's if that's what we're going to go with, which is why I wanted Gibbs to go last, because I think he's the only one who's honest about this. I think everyone else kind of runs their little cope, talking about legality, talking about, oh, well, he could have done this. And like, no, you can't. I've never heard of this. You can just like go and attack someone because they're drug dealers. There were drug dealers on a boat, so now you can invade the country, steal the dictator, the president, whatever the fuck it may be. I mean, I didn't think
Colombia. Well, not with the dictator, but
well, to be fair, we weren't on this panel during that time. So right now we have a panel to discuss it. So all this like back talk, like I didn't even know about this shit before. So was it a problem then? I'm sure it was, right? I'm sure if people knew about it, they complained. I'm sure Americans were like, hey, this probably isn't the best thing to do. But like to your point, right now, why don't we just attack Colombia? Why don't we attack Mexico? The cartels, the cartels are bringing in more drugs than anything, right? And they're connected to us. So I mean, that's kind of the issue is. What Gibbs is about to say, right, is that you're coping and saying like, oh, this is going to settle. It's going to stop now. Long term, we're fucked, right? And the whole God King Trump, I mean, if in a couple of years we're in all these perpetual wars, I mean, he's wartime president. Here we go. That is kind of an issue to consider, especially if in the polls right now, when Mark Rubio went up from 4 to 7% or whatever it was, in those same polls, Trump was still at 3% for a third term in 2028. So, I mean, yeah, there's probably a few bad things we could see with this, but I'm excited for Gibbsy's.
Yeah, I mean, on that note, I gotta say, I can only get so erect, and it makes me so fucking happy that this is going down exactly how. In fact, I actually agree with Jeb too. So there's actually this is a no-lose scenario for the United States. Like y'all talk about what's happened in 20 years. This is 100% win all the way around. I'll tell you how. First, so it's not just the oil, although I think that's the biggest reason. You know, maybe the narco-terrorism, but like the price of cocaine hasn't changed since the 80s. So I have doubts about that being the real reason. I like maybe the fentanyl, but it's really the ties to China, the ties to Iran. It's this leftist governments and these powers. We want to get rid of leftism in the Western Hemisphere. That's why he's talking about Cuba being next. Cuba's in like tied to them. They've sent death squads there. You know, Hezbollah's got people in Venezuela. He sold them out to Cuba and sold them out to Hezbollah, and he lets his people starve to death. Yeah, I think it's a good thing we took out Maduro. Of course, this bitch is going to come out and try to like sound like she's anti-U.S. and then really be like, oh God, let me call them up before they come pick my ass up in a helicopter next. Also, I don't think y'all understand how or have talked about how impressive this is. People talk about, you know, oh, they're good at war. The U.S. is good at war. We did something that no other country probably could have done. We went in there, and in less than 3 hours, 30 minutes total fighting, whooped that ass, and took the leader of another country and left while we're listening to Chief Keef. That's what happened. And you know what they did? They said, and then they died. Or they fucking hid like a bunch of bitches. And then you'll go, we're worried that it's going to get real worse if they shoot American soldiers. You know what the KD ratio in a country where they hated us, every single person hated us was? It was 8-5 to 1. That was 8 killed, 5 injured, 1 dead. That was Afghanistan. Here in Venezuela, most of these people just don't want to get killed by the cartel. If we're going in there and taking out cartel guys at that kind of ratio, or fucking Venezuela socialist commies, they're going to be pretty pumped. You know, maybe a few of them die, but if we save them in the long term, great. If we leave them to turn into a cesspool and balkanize, that's also good. Because what we'll do is we'll defend our oil interests. And guess what? They'll all kill each other, and they're much less of a threat. There's 1 million different little groups fighting than one big country. And I keep talking about this with Iraq and Libya and Syria. They were about to form a 3-country, 1-state, big power. It's much better that none of them are a state anymore, basically, except for Iraq, who's basically our bitch. And Iran is going up there with a finger up their ass going, oh, God, I hope Israel doesn't send me a photo of my president somewhere again because they're going to bomb him. Everybody's scared. Everybody's running. This is great. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see my oil and military company investments go up more than they already have in the last 24 hours. And as for someone earlier in the topic, y'all talked about those 401ks. Stop investing in AI. It's obviously a bubble. You know what you should invest in? The one thing America's been good at for the last fucking
Gold.
150 years.
Is it gold?
Whooping that ass. It's war.
Whooping
We are the world's arms salesmen. We should be buying weapon stocks. You're welcome.
Those underperform S&P 500 every year.
Yeah, but they go up every year, though. So,
but yeah, Jeb. So like, this is kind of what I'm saying is like there's a lot of these people, right? There's a lot of these people within the party. There's a lot of people, right? Trump is one of these people. We're like, yo, listen, we got to start whooping ass. We got to start taking. We got to start doing it, right? And it's proven that he's done it already, right?
Yeah,
we
Russia
we already sent the ships, the fucking bombs over to Iran. We went down to Venezuela. We're talking Cuba next. He's been talking about Greenland. He's flirted with the 51st.
Yeah, okay. The Greenland
is a lot of bullshit that
the Greenland is a solidified meme. I have some gripes.
It's a meme given by the U.S. president. Like
I think Russia proved Euro doesn't exist.
It's a meme. It's not going to happen.
Is Greenland a meme, or do you want Greenland, Lactoid?
Greenland. I want Greenland.
Thank you.
Nobody, hold on. No one's actually going to like go to war over Greenland. The idea is you want to.
We don't have to go to war.
Want to like
we
buy.
Just take it, right?
But if
we want
to buy it, then it wouldn't be a problem. That's
here's the problem. When it comes to Greenland, like I've actually looked into some of the polling on this. So Greenlanders, by the way, all of Greenland has like, I think just under 60,000 people. I mean, it is a very sparsely populated huge piece of land, very sparsely populated.
So is Canada.
It fucking sucks.
Very sparsely populated.
It's not
Canada
anywhere near fucking less than 60,000 people. And it's currently a sort of autonomous region of Denmark, right?
Mhm.
Greenlanders don't actually really like the Danish. They really don't. And in polling, if you ask the question, do you want to be separate from the Danish? They're like, yeah, fuck the Danes.
And
And
Texas
then
wants
when
to
you
be
ask,
separate from the U.S.
well, hold on,
Base.
yeah, but then you ask a follow-up question, right? You ask the follow-up question, what if it meant that you lose the funding that Denmark gives you, because like 2/3 of their budget or something comes from just like free money given by Denmark, and then their answer shifts, and they're like, well, maybe we got to stick with Denmark. We kind of want the
Yeah.
money. These
Yeah.
people can be bought. These
Yeah.
people are
Amen.
not
They
like
want-
No,
they want-
particularly.
no.
They don't
We
have
to
this
buy them
huge
from- we have to
national
buy them from
pride.
who? We have to buy them from Denmark.
No,
To
no,
buy,
no,
no,
yeah.
or we bribe them to vote for
Yes.
independence, which they can legally do
Yeah,
according to
but
the
also-
Constitution.
Yeah,
And
then
what
we
we
just
have
take
to do
down
is
the burden.
we
But, like,
convince
I
them.
think it's
That they
also
will
a
not be a
different thing
burden.
when you
We
say
convince
like,
them
hey, like you'll become
we convince them
American.
development will
One
be
second.
more.
Hold on. It's also a different thing to say that like you'll become American, because I think what you also underestimate is how much people around the world dislike us, right, and don't like the
No.
American system.
Well,
Now,
think it's
yes,
the
everyone
opposite.
loves
They
the American
want the
system.
money.
No,
We're
yeah.
talking again like
It's
less
not-
than 60,000 people.
It
can't cost that much.
That money,
But they
what does that
don't dislike
money
the American
mean,
hold on,
right?
hold on.
Like,
We give a text.
does it mean that they have to change their laws, right? Like, is it that like they become like do they become more Puerto Rico or they become more Guam, right? Do they become more the
They can
version of
negotiate.
America has like
Well, yeah. Well, that's a
wide range.
negotiation.
That's
That's
a
a negotiation. Whatever we
Again,
can,
hold on,
whatever
this is
is
a side
prudent
tangent.
for
We
us to
fumbled
make them.
Puerto Rico. Why wouldn't we
tangent.
fumble Greenland?
We didn't fumble Puerto Rico.
We-
Puerto
yeah,
Rico is
we did
exactly
not.
where we want it.
Puerto Rico
Not
fumbled
where the Puerto
down.
Ricans want it. No.
Yeah, well,
Wait,
Puerto
hold on.
Rico had a
Don't they?
president who hid
Are they
anger away
actually
from
voting
his
for
people.
statehood now, or are they still voting for like territorial?
No. What I mean,
Territorial
I don't
I think
know.
they're at like 60% statehood. But
Yeah, I don't
There is
know
like
what
60% statehood now.
I'm
Because
not sure what
I
the
know
situation is.
before it was
There's a lot
below
of more
50.
white people
But
moving there. A
what
lot
I'm
of
saying,
Americans
like,
buying
with
land
Puerto
there.
Rico is that like Puerto Ricans, like they don't have
right on the
because
money,
they're in a
57%.
bit of a limbo, right? They don't have access to like all of the American rights. But American Empire does what it wants there. Literally takes a huge portion of their islands for their bases and pollutes it, right? And then
They don't do all that they
American
want there.
capital gets to come in, do what it wants, right?
Why does American
and,
capital
they
go
have
there?
a very
Why
little
does American capital go there?
Wait, let
Because
me
the
respond to
American
this
government
point.
because of
does
lack,
not
because
get to
of
do
lack
whatever
of
it wants.
because the courts can't actually or the democracy can't actually fight the capitalists
No,
there,
no,
right? So
it's
not
because
Wait,
the
Prime.
American government doesn't get all the power
I'm
they
not
want
trying to
there.
make
They're very
I'm not
ready
trying
to
to
take
make
over
it
Canada.
Prime.
I'm not making a socialist argument here, right?
I know.
What I'm saying
We
is-
don't have to go into that. But Prime, when you look at the polling results of Puerto Rico, so Hunter's saying it's like almost 60% statehood now. That's a pretty big increase from like a couple of years ago. My understanding is it's like been less than 50 historically, but now it's kind of close. Now they more than want statehood. Okay, I promise you that second largest group is we want to stay a U.S. territory. The independence percentage is tiny comparison to the other two.
I'm not talking
No. Hold on. I'm making a point. I promise I'm not. So when I'm saying we have Puerto Rico where we want it, it is that the Puerto Ricans would prefer to either be a state or the second option continue their current status quo and being a territory of the United States.
But
For
they don't want to
Greenland,
be independent.
for Greenland,
I didn't
I
say
think-
that, obviously, because that's why you don't understand what I'm talking about.
right. But I'm saying for Greenland, when you're saying, oh, they might not want to be part of America, why? Of course they're going to want to be part of America, either as some kind of autonomous territory. Maybe over time they're going to want to become a state because becoming a state has benefits.
The poor treatment.
What?
that
So
they
this is what
receive.
again. This is what
What
guys
poor,
aren't
no, not
understanding.
poor treatment.
I'm talking about like what does that actually mean? So I gave like a range of options in terms of legality. Now you
exactly.
started to address that at the start, Lactoid, right? Yes, there's a spectrum as to like what the legal status could be
Right.
within America, but like it matters where that lands, right? Because like they can't, like for instance, Puerto Rico can't discharge its debt, right? Like it's going through all these financial crises, but part of that reason is because it's not actually a full state and doesn't have full access to American laws and
Bankruptcy,
financial
and it's
markets.
been horribly
and then there's
financially reckless.
Scott, don't worry, I see you, friend. But it also has like the Jones Act, right, which limits.
That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure you'll give us more details on that, right? But yeah, the Jones Act is a big issue there. Like all these things like matter. And so when I'm saying like I'm not talking about independence because as far as I know, I don't know there's a big independence movement there either, right? But I'm
Yeah,
saying
you're
that like
stifling them, though.
like the details of this matter. And so like what do the Greenlands want? What are we offering them? All we keep saying is that we're going to take it from them, right? And
No,
I don't
development.
know.
We
It
offer
depends what we
development.
can get.
No, stop. We offer
Those
development.
those are
Denmark-
don't
details
tell me
we
to
don't have to
stop.
hash out.
Can you
I'm
develop
like,
in Puerto Rico?
I'll get it
No,
out.
but hold on. Everybody's been jumping in when I try to say this. We offer, that's a very simple choice for Greenland. Do you want your salary or do you want to be a business owner? Greenland, if they want to be a business owner, you go America. America will bring development. They will bring favorable business conditions to move to Greenland and run a business. Whereas Greenland right now gets their salary. They get Denmark's steady income to keep
Wait,
them
who's going to
afloat
go and
where
run
they
their
are.
business? It's going to be Americans that go over there at cheap
Yeah,
cost.
but-
and
That's
run
not
their
a
business
bad
because we
thing.
think-
American
hold on.
business
For
is gonna
for Americans, it's
every
not
But
bad.
hold
country
on,
they
hold
go
on,
to.
hold on. With
Greenland, it
Greenland,
is. We're
with
gonna
Greenland, you
lose
can
their
just
fucking
buy it.
salary.
Like, okay, when you're
No,
talking about
that's
buying
not
it,
true.
there's
No,
60,000
people in
people.
Greenland-
If you pay
No,
everybody
shut
$1
the
million,
fuck up, James. You're being retarded.
Yeah, shut
no,
the
I'm
fuck
not being
up,
retarded.
James.
You're being retarded. You're not even talking about
Do they
the
even wanna
actual.
live in Greenland?
Hold on, you're not even talking
Hey.
about the actual purchase agreement
No,
with
when
Greenland. We
American
offered to
companies
pay every
go to
Greenland
other
citizen a
countries,
direct
those
check.
other
We've offered to
countries
pay them.
get more money.
Oh
I
my
can't
God.
hear either of you.
Yeah,
Let's
I'm aware,
let
but
that
he
in.
interrupted, so I'm going to keep going.
Okay.
When American companies go to other countries, the people in those countries' standards of living always goes up. They get paid more. They get better standard of living. They get better housing. They get better conditions. They get better food. They get better fucking work. They get better cars. Everything gets better for them. And so when American businesses go in there, Greenlanders aren't going to be like, well, I would rather a Greenlander own that business. No, they'll be like, my salary just fucking doubled because someone with actual means came in and started a business to develop my community, and now better housing is being built in my
But
community.
that's not what that wasn't the
People are
selling
moving
point, Jeb. That's not what we offered to
Let's
them,
go
Jeb. We offered them
That is
straight.
what we
No,
offered
it's
to
not,
them.
Jeb. That's not what we offered. We offered negotiation to directly pay them. So one of the proposals, I don't remember all the different ones, but one of the
can do
proposals was we offer them $60 billion over 10 years, so every person there gets about $1 million each over
But
10
we'll
years.
never match Denmark in that.
Well, that's
We'd never
better.
claim-
Let's-
Yeah,
That way,
Thank
that
you.
exceeds Denmark.
That exceeds it
proposal
by a
right
lot.
there.
That was one of the
Greenlanders
proposed
get all this
deals.
money.
Let's go to
No,
our
it
friend
was never an
Scott.
official deal that they could sign and accept. It was
Let's
never
go
an
to our
official deal
friend
they could sign and accept.
Scott. Please, Scott.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I stated before Donald Trump got elected, Corey backed me up on this because Corey has the mind of a scientist, which is
I'm
he's
recording.
extremely good at rote memorization. Not so good on political philosophy, but that's okay. You have your strengths. Back me up on this. I stated in order to understand Trump's presidency, Trump's second term, Trump's vision and goal, you have to recognize that Trump is moving away from America as a world empire and moving towards America as a Western America's empire. And I
I can
think
confirm. You have said that.
I think the conversation about Greenland is a part of this, as well as this concept of we're going to go in, we're going to get rid of Maduro, and we're going to put in a government that is favorable to us in Venezuela, and we're going to recoup our costs from falling apart oil refinery systems that have been destroyed under socialism because Hugo Chavez took control of them and turned them into dilapidated structures that like only take out like a couple of percentage of the oil that they should be able to take out, etc. And him talking about the embargoes. Now, when we talk about Greenland and we compare it to something like Puerto Rico, it's important to know that, yes, we could buy Greenland. I agree with the people that are saying we could bribe Greenlanders to vote for it. We wouldn't have to do military action. And that is presumably good for America, according to the America First vision. I don't think it's good to use stolen tax money, and as a bribe to try and get like a slightly better military base, in Greenland. I think it's completely unnecessary and stupid. But if it's the symbolic win and it shores up his empire, on the Western hemisphere, it is what it is. But when we're talking about it, it's also important to note that like being tied to America isn't necessarily good for your country. And Puerto Rico is a great example of this. Puerto Rico has gained some benefits from being being tied to America, right? The 1917 act that established Puerto Ricans as gaining U.S. citizenship has been one of the biggest draws of immigration from Puerto Rico to America. A fuck ton of Puerto Ricans have left Puerto Rico. And that's because if you have money and you have, you're high IQ, you're productive, you have money, you fucking leave Puerto Rico and you come to America because you have fucking US citizenship. It happens all the time. And so what has happened is that Puerto Rico has this massive brain drain. And then the 1929 Merchant Marines Act, sorry, the 1920 Merchant Marines Act and the 1920 Jones Act together have completely fucked Puerto Rico. What these two acts that have been working for over 100 years now in Puerto Rico have done is they have created a monopoly on dock workers and corporations that have to use American ships. They've made it illegal for ships coming from Britain or Europe, or I mean, I guess you could, have Chinese vessels go that way, but it would be kind of out of the way, right? To not be able to stop it by Puerto Rico first. And so what you have is you have vested corporate and government corrupt interests in that country that want to maintain this because it maintains their wealth and their power. But for the people in Puerto Rico, everything, because it's a small island nation, right? So most goods have to be imported and they come with an extreme cost because it's illegal for a ship to stop in Puerto Rico first. And the only ships that can be used are from this government granted monopoly of American only vessels that like goes from a couple of places, Texas being one of them. I think like Corpus Christi goes there, and then there's like a couple of other places that go there. And so there's no competition, and there's a massive tax and a massive tariff essentially on Puerto Ricans' lives. So it doesn't surprise me that a lot of Puerto Ricans want to break away from this because they've been getting fucked because they're not a state.
Yeah.
The moment they
Puerto
become
Ricans,
a state,
Puerto Ricans got a raw deal, but it's not just because they're not
Greenland
a state.
could also get a raw deal is what I'm saying.
No, but
And the
yeah,
same
Greenland,
with
raw deal compared to what?
Hold on, but Greenland is
Compared
better
to Puerto
in-
Rico.
Greenland
No.
is better.
Compared to
they
what?
could not.
Compared to what they would be, because we're talking about whether we're comparing.
But if
because
something like the Jones Act was imposed on Greenland,
No, but they
it'd be
can
fucked.
negotiate themselves out
No,
of that.
yeah, I understand. Throw in the Jones Act, throw in whatever. Do you like Puerto Rico's got a higher GDP per capita than any of these Caribbean nations, than any of these Latin American nations? Like, yeah, you can point to specific disadvantages Puerto Rico has to U.S. states, but that's not where they would be if they'd be independent. You have to compare them
Are we
to
counting
their...
the money they're getting from Norway as part of their GDP? I'm just
Yes,
curious.
Yeah, and it's
Denmark.
still.
Wait, are you
less
talking
than-
about
that's-
Greenland? Are you
Wait,
talking
when you
about
had-
Greenland? No.
Greenland.
Denmark.
Right, like if they're getting
Denmark.
if they're getting government is sorry Denmark, sorry. If they're getting
all the
government
same.
checks, that would also
Understood,
be
yeah.
part of their GDP, right?
Wait.
Greenland
Just to be
did
clear,
give
I'm talking
their
about Puerto
rights,
Rico.
yeah.
But there's confusion here. I'm talking about Puerto Rico. Puerto
I thought you
Rico.
said Greenland.
No, he's
if-
saying Puerto Rico compared to other South
I
American
misheard.
nations.
I misheard.
Oh,
Sorry.
fair enough. So Puerto Rico has a higher GDP per capita, and I just looked it up, than all of these nations except for Guyana, is like which is in South America. It's like a small territory that's also tied with the British economy, so there's some kind of connection there. But Puerto Rico it's not like Puerto Rico without the U.S. would be, without the Jones Act, without all these things that you're talking about, would be actually thriving. They would be comparable to these other nations where it's just as objectively worse. And by being part of the U.S. economy, even with whatever disadvantages they may have compared to other U.S. states, they're still far better off being part of America, which is why consistently they're actually pushing for closer integration with America because they want all the benefits that come with statehood, and they do not want independence. They don't want to be left out by the side of the road. They don't want to be left like
But that's
all
a
the
different
other
argument.
Latin American.
That doesn't necessarily go against my claim, right?
It's not, because this is part of us selling this to Greenland, right? The sell to Greenland's going to be like, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is that you're not going to be more integrated with us. And that's a great sales pitch.
The sell to Greenland is this, and it's that Greenland are people, and we got to start not thinking of everybody the U.S. interacts with as just this NPC that does whatever we want, because it's never the case. Greenland now is informed by the issues with the Jones Act, and the Jones Act isn't all bad. There are a few provisions in the Jones Act that make it a net negative, but Greenland is informed by these. The Jones Act was in what, 1920, the 1910s, something around there.
1920.
Greenland can very easily say, we will only take American investment. We will only forego Danish investment if we have a promise from the United States that you will not mandate that U.S. ships and U.S. ship crews have to be the ones transferring goods from Greenland, because our whole issue, the biggest benefit for Greenland would be duty-free transit to Western trade.
Do they
Let me-
need this
let me
benefit,
respond.
or are they doing fine
me-
right
let me
now?
res-
No, they are
let
not
me
doing
respond to both
fine.
of you.
They are not doing
Let me-
fine. Greenland is not fine right
And after
now.
that, I got to get Gibbs
Let-
because Gibbs has been waiting.
Yeah. Let me respond to both you. And what I'm saying is, I know this is a bit of a like we've kind of gone off of Venezuela here, right? But I do think it all ties together in terms of like the American empire. I'm not saying that like Greenlanders couldn't be given something that would sound like a better deal than what they're currently getting. I'm not even saying that like, towards, from a purely consequentialist lens, gaining Greenland seems like a good thing. I would say that, government involvement in that way is always going to be harmful to the world in general. It's always going to be a bad idea to steal more tax funds to try and purchase some land elsewhere instead of just, focusing on the economy and free voluntary trade amongst people. But what I'm saying here is that the American empire isn't always like some people's, experiences with the American empire may very well increase their material conditions, right? It very well may be that like, yeah, roads get built, schools get built, things, some form of infrastructure that we were lacking before is created here. But it's important to note that there are a lot of corporations and like when we do like these IMF schemes, our version of the Belt and Road Initiative, and we have these preferred DoD contractors that are the ones that make a majority of the wealth as opposed to those that are in those countries. And we have these like we give people loans and then we tell people, and by the way, you're not allowed to hire construction workers that are from your country. You have to hire one of our people so that the money that we loan you comes back to us, and then we charge you interest. What I'm saying is that it is a mechanism of control by the US government and by power players within the US government when we go over and fucking do regime change or engage in these monetary loan-based systems to increase this empire. It's not because we fucking love freedom and democracy and we just want to bring capitalism to everyone. It's so that large corporations and state interests can be strengthened, and so that money can be funneled from the poor and the middle class throughout the entire world towards fucking corporations. Like that's what it is. Always a raw deal. It may mean that in that specific area their lives are nominally improved, but that money comes from somewhere, and that money is always used in a non-free market way, and it is always used by either stealing money from Americans or by setting up loan things that steals money from the very countries we're helping, and then brings in all of these contracts to build infrastructure that makes the American empire richer.
Sorry, we have to go to Gibbs. He's been waiting patiently.
So, like, yeah, I mean, I don't really want to talk about the Greenland thing much more. I mean, obviously, we could spend the money. If we can waste all this money on fraud.
I'm trying to compare.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. No, that's fine. If we can waste all this money on fraud, we can cough up a few shekels for old Greenland to buy off every person there, to where they don't give a shit about who is in charge. I don't care. But as for the other thing, I gotta say, I think that what you're in your prompt you talked about is international law like even valid anymore? And I think ever since Russia,
was it ever?
Well, that's where I'm going with this. I don't think it ever was. I don't think it ever was. I think since World War II, we've had this false idea called IRBA, which is an international rule-based order, right? And I thought, I've been saying, I pretty much every chance I get on here, that's some baby back bullshit. Like it's bullshit in every aspect. Russia has proved that since 2014 with invading Ukraine. You know, China's proved it multiple times. You know, Rwanda.
We've proved it multiple times.
We proved it. Like it's really for the baby dogs. That's who it is. Little puppies that are basically, that's who IRBA's for. And then for the big boys, it doesn't mean fucking shit. And so when I'm sitting here looking at Venezuela, it's also a bigger part. I think the oil part is important, but this is part of why Rubio is already talking about Cuba next, is that it's this fight against the socialist left that Trump is going against. And yes, he's doing it within our own country, but he's also doing it because how many times, and I actually went on a panel not too long ago, I was on Wix, and I was arguing, I don't remember what the guy's name was, but he was some Venezuelan socialist, and he's arguing all these good things, while literally in the news, they had videos of Cuban death squads and people under working for Cuban death squads shooting protesters, I think to the tune of about 5,300 people. So, like, obviously leftism failed there. And I think when we're sitting here talking about this war, it's a war against BRICS. That's like not a war yet. It's a Cold War. And we're finally seeing Trump take action as opposed to lay on his back and let these people go, oh, it's globalism. Oh, multipolarity. No, it's finally time U.S. comes over there and drops the balls on our enemies. And it's wonderful that we're the only country that can do this. We went in there and we took this guy out with no time. And all these people, I heard all of them for months go, oh, it's going to be brutal. It's going to be bloody. And we went in there and we whooped their ass and left. And the difference between Afghanistan and these other countries is that we understand Venezuela. They are Catholic capitalists, but they're corrupt, right? Let's talk about it. The cartel. They're all Catholic. They're all also capitalists. They're all evil, but we understand how they work. They're money motivated. We can work on getting rid of those people. It's much harder to get rid of the religious fundamentalists in Afghanistan than it will be to get rid of the cartel guy in Venezuela.
Well, can we? Sorry, on this note of the efficiency of the operation, right? Like, I mean, like you heard me say it before. In Lack to see you.
Yeah, that is something that's interesting.
Yeah, you've heard me say it before that like I give credit. Like this was I mean excellent in terms of execution, right? Can't say anything otherwise. However, right, like that's not the big problem, right? Like we were also excellent. I mean, it depends on who you.
What was the message to China, Ron? Like China just had their invite meeting like literally hours before, and we took them out while they were there.
So, like we were also excellent. If you when you're talking about whatever the name of the operation was, where we initially went to Iraq, right? That was like overall. I mean, a lot of people died, but like in terms of how it was executed, it was done as an extremely clean military operation, and then everything else happened, right? Like the initial invasion into Afghanistan, pretty damn clean, and then everything else happened. Like and so like I think it depends on what is actually done because right now we're still in the dark, early days, right? Like we don't know, and I'm afraid the administration doesn't know, especially since we're getting different viewpoints here. What it's going to do next, right? If it's boots on the ground, right? It's not impossible that we have a Vietnam situation. It's not impossible. There's
no,
a
it 100% is. Hold on. Yes, it is. It's so fundamentally different than those conflicts.
I didn't say they were the same. I didn't say they were the same. But that doesn't mean that we can't have it.
Yes, we can. It is. It does mean that there are not the fundamental conditions necessary for a Vietnam or an Iraq to happen.
What are the differences?
Yeah,
Russia and China right next to them.
In Vietnam, you had an explicitly like third-party state-sponsored communist party, right? China was not shy about it. It was a China-backed Vietnam Communist Party, right? In Venezuela, the connections are much looser. In the Middle East, you had religious conflicts backing these tribes that predated religious documents. Like we had conflicts predating the Quran that we were working against in Iraq and Afghanistan. But in Latin America, neither of these conditions exist. This is in our backyard. China and Russia had like limp-dicked fucking like Wall Street Journal comment-esque responses to this conflict. Like there is no even remotely comparable connection to a third-party state actor that could support them that could equate to what we had in the Middle East or in Vietnam.
I'll grant you Vietnam for sure, but I am worried about the replacement. Like who do you think, like how long do you think that the replacement is going to take? Are we going to accept the VP of Maduro?
Sorry,
like,
before
are we going to have a secondary?
I don't grant the Vietnam thing yet.
Okay, go ahead,
so
Brian.
what I think that I think in terms of not having that's fair, right? But we have a well-armed population that's organized. All right, we have independent militias there that are organized and ready to act and hungry to act. We have a population that, while they don't have a religious doctrine, right? Some deep religious doctrine. You're correct there as well, right? They do have a political doctrine, right? Like the Chavez Revolution, but even before that, it's what's the guy's name? I'm always forgetting.
Well, that's why he bombed the mausoleum.
No.
It's also
Okay,
wildly unpopular. Their ideology.
No.
That's my thing. Is like,
Shitty as
yeah,
well.
It's not. Hold on 1 second, hold on, because I got it. Because there is the Bolivarian Revolution. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, Bolivarian Revolution. Like there is a revolutionary spirit. There are people who like value their independence, and also there is a history, right? It's not a Catholic Protestant. Catholic invasion of the Middle East type of history, but there is a long history of America and other invaders coming in to that country, right? So there's a history there that would predispose people to actually fight, right? Actually have a reason to fight. That's what the Bolivarian Revolution is about, right?
Yeah,
to
but the issue is
so to
the
say
issue-
that like these people aren't are going to necessarily be passive, right? And just like let themselves run over, maybe,
No,
or
hold on.
turn to a
Stop.
bloody quagmire.
This is what I was talking about, where all of the arguments against this come from ignorance on what the existing situation is. They don't see the status quo as them not being run over and U.S. involvement as them being run over. It is, do I want to be run over by Maduro? Or do I want to be run over by the US? They understand that. These are human beings. They overwhelmingly elected someone who supported the idea of being run over by Western powers over being run over by Maduro and the Eastern powers that he was a puppet for. Like,
that's different than having troops on the ground. Sorry, I don't know why you don't understand that. That's different from having troops on the ground.
It. They were celebrating in the streets.
No, hold on. Okay, now I don't believe
What
you.
streets? What streets
Now I
were they
don't
celebrating in? In Chile,
now
in
I think
Madrid,
you're
and Miami.
Yes, because that's where the refugees of the Maduro
Yeah, but what
regime
about the actual
went.
citizens?
Lots of people. Yes, there are. Some people. Some
Wait, they're not
places
citizens
were
of that country.
celebrating. Certainly, they were
refugees now?
doing in Florida,
No,
right? The
the
dissidents in
the
Florida.
citizens
Certainly they were doing
overwhelmingly
it there. Hold on,
voted for Western
No, I'm not going
stewardship
to.
over Eastern
Excuse me.
stewardship.
Excuse me, right? Because now I think you're bullshitting me. Because that's different from the population, right?
No, it's
inside
not.
of the country.
They overwhelmingly voted. They voted in 2024. It wasn't that long ago.
I'm going to fucking finish. I understand this. I'm going to fucking finish. Thank you.
No, I agree. I'm just
that's
going to
different from
interject as well.
Shut the fuck up, please. Thank you. So that's different from saying the population on the ground, especially the ones that would be in between U.S. gunfire, right? Thinks that troops on the ground is a great thing, right? It's different from saying that there's imagine this, right? A foreign nation coming and like grabbing Trump, right? There's lots of people on the left who don't like Trump. But would they celebrate having foreign troops in their nation, right? Like an imposition of power of the others deciding their resources, like independently of whether you like the dictator, right? There are reasons not to like the invader.
You don't have to worry about what
that people like necessarily are cheering an invasion. That's something completely different. Unless you say that, no, I don't believe you anymore.
No, they were cheering an invasion. They were begging other countries to come in and
I'd like to
Maduro. They wanted it to happen.
I think there's evidence for Jeb.
I'm going to jump
Jeb's
in.
argument is these people were getting shot like while protesting currently. Like
Yes!
he wouldn't have Hezbollah and the Cuban death squads there killing protesters if they weren't in favor.
Clear, I'm not saying, my argument doesn't rest on Maduro being a good guy.
No, I'm not saying it does. I'm not saying it does. But listen, I'm not saying it does.
I'm saying sorry.
I'm just what I'm saying is I guess in support of what Jeb's saying, I agree that it's mostly outside of the country. I've seen some TikToks of people allegedly in Venezuela being interviewed, whatever. I'm not going to die on that hill, but I think it does speak to him when he had to hire squads from Cuba and bring in Hezbollah to secure the peace against protesters forcibly.
I don't know if Hezbollah is there at all. Like people keep saying Hezbollah is there.
They are there. Yeah, it's not a question.
I'm going to have to.
I'll get some for you.
But it doesn't matter. Like whether they are or not. Again, I'm not saying that he's a good guy. In fact, fuck Maduro. Okay, to be very clear where I stand on that. Fuck that guy. I have no love for Maduro, right? My argument is independent of him. Is how people react to being invaded, and how heavily armed population, right? Again, how the U.S. react, right? This heavily armed population for a foreign invader taking out a controversial leader, right? Like Trump. How would the U.S. react to that?
Wait, what do you mean?
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to say
it's a heavily armed populace in Venezuela.
I posted
Okay,
a link
I
for
think
Hezbollah in there.
I fully disagree with Prime, and I think he's pushing the argument in a very poor direction. Obviously, the vast majority of Venezuelans are in favor of intervention, of U.S. intervention, preventing Maduro from continuing to be a dictator. Obviously, Maduro is not comparable to Trump. I'm still against Trump. I think Trump's a wannabe fascist. He's not an actual fascist. He's not actually controlling the levers of the government in the way that
He's
Maduro
terrible
is.
at it.
Yeah. Now I will say the concern is not the majority of the citizens. The concern is the heavily disenfranchised populace right now who support Maduro, who now have U.S. soldiers going into Venezuela and overthrowing their government. I am worried about citizens of Venezuelan citizens on the ground attacking U.S. soldiers because Trump said, or Trump has alluded to, it's a little unclear what specifically Trump wants, but I think he has definitely said that he is considering putting boots on the ground to ensure that a free election happens. And that terrifies the fuck out of me, because what happens when a number of Venezuelan citizens start attacking U.S. soldiers? Are we at war with Venezuela? Do we now support this? And I feel like we're at the precipice of the moment when Bush is standing with the fucking mission accomplished in the back because we took out Saddam Hussein, and we're not worried about how complex this situation now got. We have to worry about this entire political apparatus and who specifically how do you impose democracy? We're in such murky waters right now that I don't think we're recognizing it. And we're just looking at, all I'm saying is regime change looks good on day one. That's just the situation. That's what happened in Iraq. That's what's happening now. It looks good right now, but I think
look this good.
I agree that it looks maybe better than it's ever looked. And as I've said,
this is like
there's
one
some
of the
green
day.
flags. There are some
I
green
agree.
flags. I agree. There are some
Flip
green
it,
flags.
boys. That's fine.
And you know what? But I guess I'm wondering for the panel, what the fuck is supposed to happen after Venezuela? Do we just allow the VP to go after and like?
Can I concede?
Yeah, we just
Can
go
I
after
concede
Cuba
some
next, and then
things I'll concede some things that'll make your stance and Kai's stance a little more attractive, because what I'm going to concede sounds a little dark. First, I will take the flowery side, which is, Venezuela is so fundamentally different. There just is no significant resistance force in the populace to create the kind of unending conflict that existed in the Middle East or even in Vietnam.
Maybe.
Now, I will concede some things that will make you guys look better. There is a disenfranchised pro-Maduro populace in Venezuela. I think if they are willing to take up arms to steal the rights to an election from the rest of the country, they deserve to no longer be a part of the video game. I think if you are going to take up arms in favor of Maduro after he illegitimately stole an election, and the same way I feel about the January 6th protesters in the United States, I think you sacrifice your right to continue playing the video game we are all playing on this earth.
But
if
who
you are going to
authorizes that?
stay a despot. I mean, who authorizes it? It's all
Like the
in
U.S.
these
government, the U.S. military is going in and shooting Maduro supporters. Is that what we're
No, well, it
advocating
would
for?
no. So it would probably be a similar thing that we do in some of these situations where we work as sort of an accessory and training force to whatever legitimately democratically elected force exists in that country. This would be the Edmundo's force in Venezuela. Whatever he has to muster, we would support them. And if Maduro supporters wanted to take up, Maduro supporting civilians wanted to take up arms, unfortunately, they forfeit their right to continue in the video game because they are saying we want to rob the populace of their right to vote.
And you don't understand that.
Can we just cut it short? Can we just cut it
listen,
short? We know
fuck
that's
you,
going to happen, so they
fuck
just
you and
forfeit
your
their
whole
rights.
political project, right?
Yeah,
in any case,
that's it.
so
that's fair.
looking
I
at-
said it would
look-
help your guys' side. What I'm
so,
saying, because it does sound dark.
again,
But if you're going to steal other
yeah,
people's votes,
What's the
you
other
don't get
option?
to play the
hold on,
video
What's the
game.
other option, Jeb?
fuck you and your whole
Jeb, is there
political-
another option?
The
where
other
everyone
option
can just
is
get elected,
perpetual
where everyone is just fully
dictatorship in
supportive?
Venezuela. No, it's
What?
perpetual dictatorship.
So
in
why don't we just
Venezuela.
invade all dictatorships?
We
Why
don't
we
give
just
a-
invade all dictatorships?
Because
Yeah, we don't give
only
a
have the
fuck
means
about the
to hit-
dictator.
We only
can
have
we stop?
means to
Can we
hit
stop
one
the
at a
bull?
time.
here? Can we stop the bullshit? We don't
It
give a
doesn't
fuck
matter
about-
our
That's
intentions.
why
What matters
Gibbs
the
is the only one I
None of
take
that actually
seriously
matters
when it
at
comes
all,
to
right?
this.
And so let's
That's
see
why
how
Gibbs is
we're-
the only person to
let's-
take seriously when it comes. No, Fabian, I'm
Yeah.
saying in terms of like the
I'm
conservative
being honest. I'm
Republican
not
side.
saying
doesn't
Trump
yeah
Gibbs is
like
the
no
only
one
true
cares,
fucking
right?
boy
Like
about
and
this.
and
No,
and,
I'm
and I
not
agree
saying
and I
Trump
agree
does care.
I
What I'm
agree
saying
with-
is what
I
You're
you're
not
agree
doing.
pro
with,
this, Scott.
I
You're just
agree-
you
I
just
agree
accept
with-
the truth.
with Ali
Stop.
said is that
I'm
like
being
no I'm not gonna
strawmanned.
hey I'm not gonna stop. Excuse me.
I'm being
Shut up.
strawmanned. I
Excuse
don't
me.
think
Hold
Trump
on.
has like benevolent intent. I think when
I-
Maduro
no one
decided to
said you-
play the
no one
big
said that.
stick game, he entered himself into a game he could not win, and Trump is better at the big stick game, and so Maduro was losing at the game he fucking chose to play.
Okay, so I have to deal with
Bullshit,
all of us.
what do you
bullshit.
mean?
You
You
Jeff
said
Kennedy's just been
Venezuela,
saying
you don't
bullshit
get
this
votes
entire
because I have a
time.
bigger
And
country.
anyway,
I
right?
forgot this
like,
was high
literally
school.
one Google search already pops up. Hey, all credible polling says that Venezuelans dislike Maduro, which I started from the
Those polls
what I
are
said from the
bullshit.
top, right? But then the ones that say
I can
dislike
tell you why.
Maduro.
There are a lot of
Okay,
polls
hold
that
on,
say that
I'll-
Maduro
hold
should
on,
be
I'll
president
deal-
in the 2024 election.
Really
so
legit
New
one.
polls.
well,
The
so
new
hold on a second,
polling
hold on
is
a second,
bullshit
please.
too.
All right, you guys can respond. 1 second, right? The article talks about how they overwhelmingly want Maduro out, right? But they were deeply divided on U.S. intervention. This is from a few years ago. They're deeply divided over U.S. intervention, and what was it? 54% will reject such an opposition. Now, is this
Recent.
no, it says it's a few years ago. Is this a full understanding of like the will of the people? No, but I don't think you have that either. I don't think you have that either. So for everyone to say, "Well, this is obvious," well, obviously,
It's obviously
most people
great. It's great for
US
the
No, hold on.
for everyone.
military.
Let me first and foremost, let me address the polling. Right, there's essentially
I see you good.
two categories of polling that you can do
Like,
in
that's fine.
Venezuela.
I'm sorry. Like,
Okay, you can do polling that the government allows, right, which is internal poll. It like obviously trash, right, because we have a dictator there. Or what you can do is you can do like the best you can do is like randomized kind of like online contacting. And the problem is that this type of polling is far, far more likely to catch people that are wealthy, that have internet access, and that are like subscribed and engaged with whatever systems that like it polls the privileged. So it has a far more likely to capture pro Maduro support than it is like poor people starving somewhere. Right. So fair enough. Right. Nevertheless, that's what we have to work with. I would say that like the best we can look at is unfortunately CIA biased understanding of what we think the actual and like internal from the opposition of what we think the actual election was, which is supposedly like 75-25, but who fucking knows? I want to say that there are two main things.
One thing on that, right? And I agree with you. I like to be very clear, right? Like I don't think this polling is
accurate.
Well,
it's just neither side really knows.
Neither side really knows, but like
and that's why it's concerning to put troops in the ground because you don't really fucking know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and the slight pushback I give you, right, is that like that's just because they voted for someone else, right? That's different from saying also.
No. I agree.
I want US.
I agree. So that's the best.
Yeah.
I'm talking about best available data we have.
Okay,
right.
fair enough.
I'm not saying that tells us whether or not they're pro military intervention. So I want to say two things that haven't been brought up that I think are really important about what happened in Venezuela. Maybe minor details, but I don't think they are. The first thing that I want to say is that Venezuela has been the main means by which China has imported weapons into South America.
Yep.
And Venezuela has Venezuela has the most advanced military technology, very close to what China currently has. Okay, their stealth detection radar systems, which are the JY-27s, they even had JY-27Vs, which is the stealth detection systems that China made in the mid-2020s, like 2022, 2023 tech. The reason I think that's important is that shit fell in a half hour to like a small push by the US. And this is a huge signal to BRICS that, bitch, China, you don't know what we got. And what we got is obviously way better. There's been a lot of
is it?
people
Oh,
Wait,
and
in
the
the
delegation was
international.
there.
Hold on. We proved it. We just proved it.
Yeah.
And
Not
one of the
really.
yes,
And
we
the
did. We
delegation was there.
overwhelmingly proved it.
Wait. Just let me just
Ali,
real quick.
Ali, you're
If you give-
interrupting me, and I'll keep explaining.
Okay,
So
cool.
here's what I'm
He's a
saying is this:
dictator, and he
is
got all
that
this
there
stuff
has
with it.
there have been a lot of people in the world, a lot of Americans that like aren't really keyed into this too, a lot of Westerners that have this view that the American military technology is like falling behind China and is falling behind the productive capacity of China. And the best shit they got,
News.
we needed like 80 planes. Technically, it was 150 aircraft for the entire operation, but like we needed like 80 planes and a couple drones. We shut down their electricity with drone technology. We're not sure what it is, but we have some type of EMP drone devices that like haven't even been released to the public that apparently shut down Caracas instantaneously, shut down their power, forced them on generator. And the reason I say that's important is that I do think maybe not to the average American or anything or the average person, but to the Chinese government, they're absolutely looking at this is the first time the JY-27Vs have been tested in actual combat. And in actual combat, America laughably rolled over it almost instantaneously.
Can I ask you
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
questions in that regard though? Because like my
we got a
first
few
question would be
people-
like, wouldn't the
So that's
people
my
manning
first
the
point,
tech?
but-
Wouldn't the people manning
we
the
got
tech?
we got
have to
time. We
be,
do
like,
have time. So
knowledgeable
hold
on
on.
the
We
tech,
actually do
though?
have a few people. We have to do a few people to go through. So we'll go to Gibbs, Lactoid, Corey, and then we'll go to Ali. All right.
Well, let me just say my second point, right? And my second
Oh.
point is very different from the Chinese tech point, but it is important to know because I think it might change how we move going further, knowing that China knows and is a little bit more like, oh shit, these guys still have it. Because that's an important field test, and it was a field test China failed. The second thing is that when we're talking about regime change wars, we keep comparing regime change to previous blunders of the American empire in the last 20 or 30 or 50 years. And I think it's important to recognize that America has slowly shifted with the failures of Libya and Iraq and Afghanistan, has slowly shifted towards information, websites, USAID, funding, and State Department and NGO control of institutions so that they can utilize economic and intelligence assets along with corporate worldwide power and global corporate power as a means of controlling institutions and controlling what people think, controlling what public opinion is, controlling social media algorithms, controlling what ideologies are taught in universities, controlling what media organizations are popular, etc. And so I think when we think about what is the future of Venezuela, we need to recognize that it is very unlikely that we are going as an America to approach Venezuela the same way we approached Iraq. It is far more likely that we will approach Venezuela with the successes, air quotes, right? Because I mean, it's all kinds of problems here, but the successes in Ukraine and in Egypt, where we were able to foment the Arab Spring, where we were able to foment institutional control and media control in these places and turn these countries into our allies with all of the with intelligence apparatus, NGOs, corporations, USAID. We have a web of in internal intelligence as well as social media companies and NGOs use a quote unquote whole of society approach is the key word you're looking for. You're trying to find some of these like documents and like videos where they train on these things, a whole of society approach. So it's far less likely that we're going to have like a big ground force to ensure elections are done, and far more likely that we are going to be manipulating their social media, manipulating what news media, is successful, manipulating what businesses are successful, giving money towards institutions that support our worldview, et cetera, et cetera.
But we've been deteriorating
Obviously,
our
I said
power
entirely bad.
over the
Let's
last
go to
last
we
year.
gotta move forward.
Yeah,
So we are going to go to Gibbs, Corey, Gibbs, Lactoid, Corey, Ali, and anyone else?
Yeah, could I throw myself in?
Hunter.
Him
and
first,
then,
then
Jeff.
me. Yeah.
Okay, sure. Gibbs, and we have a super chat to Gibbs. Thank you, Testicle Johnson. Gibbs said Putin invaded Ukraine, but left out they were forced to intervene. Pretty sure Lactoid knows what I'm talking about. I don't, but thank you, Testicle Johnson, for the kind donation.
Thank you, Testicle Johnson.
Yeah, I mean,
for that
Don't
very
Testy,
good
join,
point.
don't join NATO, you know?
yeah, I mean, Testy wants to troll, but I don't take anything Canadians say seriously. That's why I don't ever take anything.
Testy
Lactoid
never
and Canadians
trolls.
say.
He is
No,
an
of
earnest
course.
interlocutor.
No,
okay?
I want to say though, this maybe I actually agree with some of what the people that are against the invasion are saying, or the concerns they have about what comes next, because I think that once again we are taking some of the wrong lessons from this, and we think we can go back to this post World War II nation building. I don't think that's possible in the modern age. I think there's too many countries that want to get involved and are going to try to tinker, and too many people, groups and factions and the cartel. No, I think there's two options. We either let them try to do it on their own and they descend into madness, and then that's good for the U.S. because of a bunch of different reasons. And y'all can argue, oh, it's bad because refugees and shit. But as we know, Texas can build a wall. I'm sure we can build a wall that'll stop everybody from coming in. Then that's just the country's problems. And two, I like the other thing is yeah, we'll get our oil, we'll defend it. That's bad. That sounds bad. But yeah, y'all just listen. It sounds mean, but balkanization's good as the superpower for us.
We're going to bring the refugees over, Gibbs. I want you to prepare
They're going to be
for
stuck on
that.
the wall. They're going to be stuck on the wall.
Good.
Listen, hold on.
Good.
We have the orange balls of death in the
Because
Rio
they're
Grande.
pro-capitalist refugees. That's
Hold on. That's fine. We'll keep going though. We'll keep going because this is the bigger thing. I honestly and truly believe our biggest mistake, John McCain said it. He said, if we're going to convert the Afghanis, we're going to have to be there 100 years. And we didn't have the stomach for that. I don't think we'd have to be that long in Venezuela to do that. I think we went down there and we're like, you know what?
99 years.
You're all greater Texas now. And we're going to give you all the benefits. We're going to tap oil at the pump, just like they do in Texas. And we're going to tap the oil, and the oil taxes are going to pay for you. They can have no property taxes and no income tax and all the wonders and still have the same system they got.
We don't even have that.
Well, we do it. Hold on. We do in Texas. So we already have that business model. We can tax it at the pump, and we can sit there. And guess what? Venezuela never paid Exxon or what was it, Philip Conoco, all that money. We could get that out of there, and we can just own that shit in perpetuity. And then we go to Cuba next. Cuba's got a lot of shit that we can get, and then it's great. We'll be fantastic. And we're talking about Greenland earlier, and we didn't really talk about this, but Greenland's got
Colombia's third or second? What do you think?
What?
Colombia number 2 or
I don't
number
know.
3?
I mean,
is it Cuba next, then Colombia?
Probably
Which
Cuba.
one are we doing, buddy?
I think Cuba's more tied to BRICS, and they'll be easier. So we'll just go in there. And I mean, honestly, every time we started with this, since the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, right? That ended Manifest Destiny for the most part. I think maybe we add Alaska afterwards as the actual end. But when we stopped doing that, we started doing things like the Teller Amendment when it came to Cuba and not going in there and invading, or what we did after World War II where we gave these countries back. That's where we fucked up. All these countries could be America now. They could all be benefiting from American rights. We would have the new American Empire, and Russia and the Soviet Union would have still fell apart, and everything would be Gucci Mane today. Instead, now we have all these brush fires we got to go put out everywhere in the world. It's bullshit. And I'm sorry to being soft about it. All the people's lives would be better everywhere if they were American.
Let's go to Lactoid.
Except for
Okay,
the
a couple things. So, Scott, I disagree with your polling point that you made before, that you're saying, well, these polls are going to target wealthier people, which is going to skew more pro-Western. I think that that's an intuition as to some effect that maybe had on the polls, but you also have to remember the, I think, much larger effect of people being scared to answer opposed to the regime if they live under that regime on any kind of poll that they get.
There's a lot of reasons why it's going to be difficult to get accurate polling data from that. I mean, it's the same thing with Donbass polling, right before the Ukraine-Russia war. Anytime you have a dangerous, fucked up area, right, and especially if you have a dictatorship, right, if you're not able to conduct scientific polls in the region, those polls might as well be your grandma's Facebook IQ test.
No,
it's just they're barely better than that.
I disagree. I think that they are useful. I think it's important to get them, and I think the only thing is we have to recognize
write
that it might
articles based off of them like they're good polls. It becomes a fucking problem.
The caveat should always be added that I think that polls in authoritarian regimes tend to undercount opposition to that authoritarian regime, because
movement in those polls can be interesting, though.
Well, and this is there's literally actually I remember a study that was done on this. So in the Donbass area, for example, when people were asked, "What are your thoughts on like staying part of Ukraine, being independent, et cetera," if the call was coming from Kiev, it changed the respondents' answer, right? Pretty dramatically, because what you're essentially doing is admitting to treason at this point, right? Yeah, I want America to come in. I want to take out the government. Of course, you think that the Maduro regime is going to stand for that? What I'm interested in is looking at the exit polling that happened during that last election, right? So there was poll watchers that were there, and they were, they would ask the people coming in, who'd you vote for, et cetera, et cetera. And I mean, all of the data that we currently have indicates that Maduro soundly lost. I don't believe that most Venezuelans will oppose us if we.
That's basically what I stated.
Sure, I don't think they're going to mostly oppose us if we go in to annex them. If we go in to like remove Maduro and like set up some kind of better system, they may oppose us when it comes to like annexing them. I think that's a whole different animal. I just took
it's also
issue with
important
just
to note
the
things
polling point that
change,
you made.
right? Like
Sure.
like when it's one thing in the moment and the fact that you're free of Maduro and you hate Maduro, it's another thing when you walk outside and there's American troops outside. That changes opinions like a fucking
for sure. And in fact, I think that's one of the reasons why I'm also a little bit scared of having U.S. soldiers on the ground.
Well, that was my second argument, is why I think that's far less likely.
But Hunter also made that argument. I think everyone here is has a lot of anxiety about that.
Right, but I also think we've learned a lot of lessons with regime change wars, and that when we look at what we've been doing over the last 20 years and what we've shifted towards, what we are far more likely to see is very limited troops, and instead intelligence apparatus working with NGOs and corporations.
But Trump has shifted away from that. Has shifted away from that trend.
Trump has.
No, can I?
I got a couple more.
He's the current commander in chief who operated this Venezuelan attack.
I got a couple more points real quick. So there's two other kind of aspects I wanted to cover really quick. So in your opening, Scott, you brought up U.S. law and kind of this question of, did the founders really intend for the president to have the power to engage in this kind of these limited operations? I think there is historical precedent for this.
You're talking about Thomas Jefferson?
Thomas Jefferson launching the squadron out to the Barbary States, 1801. I mean, we're talking literally a founder who is using his power.
These are pirates
Article
that are
2.
kidnapping and enslaving American citizens, right? It's kind of different than bringing in drugs and like working with our enemies, kind of. Like
You can say
maybe you're right. Maybe you're right.
Sure, I'm just saying you can say that this is worse. You can say what the pirates are doing is worse, etc. But it was. Thomas Jefferson committed.
I'm not saying it's worse. I'm saying one is a direct action against U.S. citizens. The other is like importing shit.
But here, I understand. Well, sort of. It's a little bit complicated because Venezuela also took a property that was adjudicated by international courts as well.
True, and to be fair, Exxon and oil companies have paid more in taxes than the operation it took to go get Maduro out. So technically speaking, you could say the American government is working on the interests of corporations that have had their money stolen, and therefore
they often
non-aggressive act.
Well, and that was a major interest with the squadron that Thomas Jefferson sent in 1801 as well, because it was U.S. commercial ships
that were stolen.
It was commercial ships that were being seized. So we already have
your argument. It's not.
Yeah, we have precedent. I think of like a founding father committing, and the reason is because Article 2 of the Constitution does establish the president as the commander in chief and gives him some latitude, short of declaration of war, to commit U.S. forces into hostile engagement.
To be fair, Thomas Jefferson did ask for congressional approval
6 months later, or like 7 months later. So he launched the squadron, and then it was 1801, and it wasn't until 1802, because it was like May of 1801, and then it was 1802 that Congress finally gave him the authority. So he launched that shit without congressional approval. And yes, he did, and that's a founding father that did it. And history since then
has been brush up on my Barbary Wars.
It's all good, but history since then has been replete with U.S. presidents doing this. Not only, Trump absolutely did this. Obama did this, right? In Libya, Obama did not go to Congress first at all, or ask permission before he
drone strike an American civilian because he had the wrong dad.
We do have the War Powers Act on. We have the War Powers Act that actually expressly allows like you to do a military action for like, was it 90 days before I actually to go into
Yeah,
Congress?
yeah. So the war exactly. The War Powers Act does it does allow this. It does allow this kind of action explicitly. It does put in some restrictions of you have to report within 48 hours to Congress, which Obama did, which Trump has done, and you have to without congressional approval, you can't keep troops there longer than 60 days. But there is no part of the War Powers Act that Trump has run afoul of. Arguably, Obama may have run afoul of it because there was U.S. forces engaged in Libya for longer than 60 days, and Congress voted against extending his authority to operate there. Now it's questionable as to is that really troops committed there because it was just airstrikes? But we also have like footage of at least NATO forces that were on the ground in Libya. So were they really there?
Lactoid, I have to present
What's
the
up?
end bad faith argument of Pisco, which is, well, Article 2 put limits on something, but that doesn't mean that it justified operating within.
That's the War Power. Yeah, talking about the War Powers Act.
This idea that we made the War Powers Act under the assumption that no war powers for the president were justified, but we put a 30-day limit on powers that didn't exist for no reason because
why are you bringing up other retards' arguments on this?
Because Lactoid got such a fucking smacking of when among liberals because Pisco got him on a semantic thing of the War Powers Act didn't explicitly afford the power to the president to do these things, but it obviously recognized the power.
Let me clarify.
No, it's not no reason. No, it's not no reason because the WIC platform is equally big to this one, and this was like a convincing argument to like a majority of them, which is the idea that if something doesn't explicitly justify the president's powers, it doesn't recognize the president's powers by virtue of limiting them, which
so we should bring up every argument that's convincing to the
if it doesn't take that long, this would take 10 seconds if nobody argued with me about bringing it up.
Prime. Let me help clarify, Prime. So specifically with the War Powers Act, what you just said, which I think is correct, and my argument is that the War Powers Act obviously recognizes circumstances in which the president can commit soldiers and military forces absent a declaration of war from the U.S., which is what everybody's saying is potentially illegal under U.S. law that Trump did, and then I guess what Obama did, because Obama actually got a lot of shit back in 2011 when he did this as well. He did. I mean, there was a lot of legal analysis here as to well, why didn't you go to Congress first? But I think it is fair to say that the War Powers Act does at least implicitly acknowledge by setting limits that don't include restrictions on first strikes or limited military operations. The president does have this ability because historically they always have, all the way back to Thomas Jefferson. So I think on both a U.S. law grounding, we have a very strong position going all the way back to the Founding Fathers. And I think on an international law perspective, it's a little bit weaker. I'm not going to lie. Now, how much loyalty we all really have to international law is questionable. But at the same
time, never had any loyalty to it other than to sound nice.
But at the same time,
it doesn't really exist.
Well, but I think it. Okay, I pay it some heed. I think it does sort of exist. But to Venezuela violated. I mean, not to make it two wrongs equal a right kind of thing or whatever. But it's a little bit rich that Venezuela is going to appeal to international law when
Cuban death squads and Maduro.
The UN condemned them.
Venezuela. It's not about Venezuela invoking the international. It's the rest of the
it's the rest of the world.
It's Americans holding America accountable.
And I really like to talk
I understand. I think the international law aspect is a little. I'm not sure. I'm not comfortable enough as putting a percentage as I am with the U.S. domestic law, which I think is the Constitution's ultimately what all of us here are most loyal to. I'm assuming, at least as far as legal documents go. At least as far as legal documents go.
I love the U.S. Constitution. I talk about it all the time. International law is retarded.
More than international law, though.
It recognizes the sovereignty of states as a sacred thing that doesn't fucking exist.
We got to go to our friend Corey's been waiting, and then we'll go to Ali, Staxium, Jeb, and then Gibbs.
Okay,
it's a perversion of private property rights.
Springboarding off of one of the conversations that just Scott and Lacto were having. So Jeb, I'm curious, or out of curiosity, how do you rate, let's say, Saddam Hussein relative to Maduro? Or do you think Maduro is better, worse, the same?
So it depends if you're talking about there's a couple things. So I think they're about.
Don't just say worse. Just say Saddam Hussein's better. Well, obviously.
Here's the issue:
Is that obvious?
Saddam Hussein is only marginally better on a dictatorship perspective, but I understand the concern about the outcome. The outcome of deposing Saddam Hussein, which we're always balancing when we're talking about intervention, is far worse than the outcome of deposing Maduro, where there is overwhelming support for opposing regimes in his locality. Whereas with Saddam, you have, again, religious conflicts that predate the actual religious.
You already said that. But I just asked one question so far. Like,
no, I know.
You're not addressing anything that I brought up. I just asked a question.
I'm not responding to you. I'm responding to like the peanut gallery, which isn't. They're not wrong to bring in those extra factors, but it's like, yes, Saddam is slightly worse than Maduro, or sorry, Maduro is slightly worse than Saddam, but the outcome of deposing Saddam would be so much worse that I think there is an earnest argument to be made that we should not have intervened in Iraq and the Middle East, but we should have intervened in South America.
Okay. So taking everything that you said at face value, like, and I haven't, I don't remember the numbers and I haven't checked them, but like, what do you think? Do you have a vibe or do you have an intuition of like, what was the public support for Saddam Hussein in Iraq amongst the Iraqi people at the time? Do you think that was like heavy support? Like they loved him?
Yeah. So the issue is, right, we have varied samples.
Iraq is like 3 ethnic.
Well, no, and not just that. Not
one
just that.
country. It's a lot more complicated.
Not just that, but there weren't a lot of Iraqis free from the regime that we could pull. Whereas post-exodus from Venezuela, there is like a really sizable population of freed Venezuelans to pull in terms of support for Maduro. Now, that is also a biased population because no one's going to flee Maduro if they support him, and that's fair to say. But the issue with Iraq is there were essentially 0 freed Iraqi populations to pull at that point. So it's tough. It's tough to compare.
I agree. It's tough. I just want to see what your interest is. But like, I'm just curious then, like, how do you know that you're like not pulling like a Dick Cheney? I think that he explicitly said like, the U.S. would be greeted as liberators. And I assume, and so I understand Dick Cheney is a liar, but I also assume he had access to some sort of intelligence that made him come to that conclusion.
Like,
but he is a liar.
Dick Cheney was a liar, but he was probably right in that sense that most people supported regimes deposing Saddam. The issue is obviously, and that's the whole conversation.
Would you say then that Dick Cheney was right, that they were greeted as liberators then?
That's the thing, right? Is he was wrong in that part. And I think there is a genuine conversation to have on Hunter and Kai's point and your point, it seems, which is that sure, they support deposing Maduro, but do they support American intervention? The issue is, from what we've seen since Maduro's arrest, it does seem that there was overwhelming support from Venezuelans for American.
Well, my memory's a little bit fuzzy, but I believe there were still celebrations when Saddam was taken out in Iraq.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were more limited, whereas the celebrations
they pull down the statue.
Right?
But
it was like in like the Kurdish areas and like some of the other minority areas. It wasn't like in Tikrit where Saddam had a stronghold.
Yeah. It only takes a group or two of people to tear down a statue. We're seeing ubiquitous.
But how do you know the signal that you're seeing?
We're not seeing that.
You got to
keep
stop saying ubiquitous.
Everywhere.
There's 3 videos on Twitter.
No, it's not.
The same 3 videos being shared around from
even polling domestically shows damn near
polling
a majority.
Domestically doesn't matter. Not for this. We're talking about
hold on. It only doesn't matter
you mean
because
domestic U.S. or domestic Venezuela?
Domestic in Venezuela.
Okay.
In Venezuela. So it's not necessarily polling domestically, but in a domestic, only Venezuelans in Venezuela can vote election, they voted against Maduro. And then everywhere that we see outside of it is celebrating like it's in
Iranians are so happy that America bombed the Iranians are so happy that America bombed because they're against the regime in Iran.
Okay, so tell me, can you name 3 different?
This is like this thing. It's not like
stop. To counter
people under a regime they didn't vote for, they didn't want, and an American intervention came in and saved them. Apparently,
Can you name 3 different? Stop. Can you name 3 different countries where Iranian refugees lived, where they were ubiquitously on video celebrating the arrest of their leader, or the obviously in that
Sorry,
case
you didn't
murder of
have
their
that.
leader.
There is no point talking about this. Cubans, right? If you poll Cubans in Florida, they'll all tell you how awful the Castros are and how badly the regime needs
Then
to
why
go,
do we
right?
ignore
And if you
that as the
listen-
general
and
truth?
if you listen to Cubans, if you listen to Cubans, you might have the idea that all Cubans in Cuba, right, hate the regime, right? Absolutely want change.
I'm not
You would be
saying
wrong
all.
about that,
The
right?
majority,
You
though,
yes,
summoned my Cuban
That's
friend
not even- that's
in
not
the
even-
chat.
that's
It's
not even the
hilarious.
point.
I haven't
Venezuela-
seen him in like
Venezuela-
6
Venezuela-
months.
Wait, Prime, that's not even the
who
point.
run from Venezuela are going to have a problem in Venezuela. We can all acknowledge
That's-
that,
But
that's
right?
not
even
even
in
the point.
Venezuela, they voted against him.
No, Jeb,
even
Jeb,
in
Jeb,
the
Jeb,
country.
Jeb, chill.
Different. Hold on.
Prime,
Stop trying to, because you keep mixing these things, right?
The Venezuelans-
No, I'm not mixing. I'm acknowledging a limitation
properly
in data.
disambiguated these things
Listen,
in
the
our conversation, right? Then you
Venezuelans-
keep mixing them again. Yes,
I'm not mixing. I'm
they may
acknowledging
have
there's
voted
a
against them,
limitation.
right? I can million believe they voted against them. That's different from U.S. intervention. Stop saying that one
No,
is
but
the other.
Kai, I'm not mixing. I'm acknowledging there's a limitation in data. But if there's a
But in the end,
if
that's
there's
your
a
conclusion.
populace who's voted against him in 2 elections straight, and they still
Doesn't
have
matter.
been, and they're
Doesn't mean they
under
want
threat.
Just
Yes,
because someone's
I
happy
know.
about the deposition doesn't mean they're happy that American is the one who did it. That's the point he's trying to make. Yes,
Ali,
they're happy that their dictator
I get
is
it.
wrong.
I understand everything you're saying.
Then that's the point.
What
What's the
I'm saying
argument
is-
itself
But I'm
then?
gonna yell over you.
No, but this is the issue. Is in the same context as as other nations under despots. It's like, do we allow the dictators to suppress the populace enough to where you can always make an argument that they don't support foreign intervention, or do you accept that a populace that has voted against their despot in 2 different elections and been crushed is probably going to support it, and you're never going to be able to get that data because the despot is making sure you don't,
Literally none
and
of
you
this
don't need to
matters
wait.
because we don't give a fuck about any
You
of
don't
this.
need to wait for the dictator to allow
We don't.
that data to
We
get
don't.
out
We don't stop
before
acting.
you
Can we
depose
stop
him.
acting? Can we stop acting on this panel like any of that matters? Once again, to Ali's
It
point,
does
right?
matter.
Gibbs is
Why does it
correct.
not matter that
Gibbs is
Venezuela
correct,
has been
right?
oppressed
To say
for
that
over
none of that
3
shit matters,
decades?
right? Like
Why
the point
doesn't
is
it
to go
matter?
in there
That's right.
and get the resources.
Because how
We
come
keep
we didn't
saying-
go against
there's
all
a
the
simple
dictators? We just went
argument.
over
We
this
went
one
in on a lot of
dictator.
them. Wait,
Trump
we
when
went
was
in on a lot of
explicit.
them.
Trump was
From your
explicit,
no war
right?
president?
And I appreciate Trump for
We
that.
went in
He
on a
was
lot of
explicit.
them.
But
Hey,
we're-
we're
if we
there
can,
for
we
the
wouldn't be
oil.
back in
We don't
Rwanda
give a
right
fuck
now.
about all this other stuff. Stop saying this stuff. Like it actually, even
It
if-
does matter.
even
It
if
doesn't matter
everything you
what
said was
Trump's
true, which is not.
Prime
Even
Kai.
everything that was true, it's not the reason. Why don't
Kai,
we?
it doesn't
let's not
matter if it was the
pretend-
reason. It doesn't matter.
Of course it does. Of course
No,
it
it
does.
doesn't.
Of course it does. Why
No,
are
it
we there?
doesn't.
Hold on. Why we're there?
I don't see why it
matters-
does,
hold on.
actually.
It
Do you
absolutely
think
does.
Truman
Hold on.
did the
It
Marshall
matter- it
Program
hold on.
because
I'll
he
explain-
cared
I'll
about
explain
Europe?
to you why.
No,
I'll
but it was
explain to
still
you why. I'll
good.
explain to you why. It absolutely matters, right? According to the people there, the people there, they're oh my God, these
No,
Americans
you don't have
are
the data
here
to support
free.
that.
Oh, excuse me. It matters to the people because, hey, if the Americans here to free us, right? Wow, they actually might be liberators. Again,
No, cite something to prove that.
Excuse me,
Cite
hold on.
something to prove
Excuse
that.
me, I'm going to fucking finish. Shut the fuck up, Jeb. Thank you. I'm going to fucking finish my point. Shut the fuck up.
Sure,
you
but
do that for me?
cite,
Come on,
cite what you're asking me
hey,
to cite.
You need my
You're
assistance.
saying I
You
need
need my
polling.
assistance? Okay,
Sure.
I'll assist you. No problem.
Cite
Okay?
polling.
Shut the fuck up. Thank you. I'll do it for you since you are incapable of doing this yourself. Shut the fuck up when I'm talking. Okay? Shut the fuck up. So you're asking a question. I'm gonna answer the fucking question. Shut the fuck up. Thank you. All right. Anyway, it matters for the individual, for the people, the people on the ground, right? The Venezuelans.
According to what polling?
Shut the fuck up, dude. Hold on. Shut the fuck up. Excuse me. Excuse me. Okay. So, it matters because to the people on the ground. So, assuming they agree with what you're saying, right? They agree. They are on your side. They like everything you've said, right? In terms of their attitudes is true, right? It depends on like why the force is there. if the force from their perspective is there to liberate them from a despot, right? If they hate it, they want it gone, right? Well, then maybe yes, they will greet us as liberators. But if they think, right, because the leader of the invading force said it explicitly that we're here for oil, right? We're here to take your resources. That changes their relationship to the invading force.
According
right?
to what?
Also,
though? Like,
hold on,
what?
shut the fuck up, holy Chad. But I don't know why you can't. You're capable of this.
I'm just asking where you're
Hold on,
sourcing the point.
Shut up. I can't. Right? I have him in backstage. You can shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I don't know why you're incapable. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up when I'm talking to you. So I'll do it for you. And the other thing it changes is the
Why are
relationship.
you crashing out right now, dude?
Because
You're a debater and a moderator. This is your fault.
Because he can't. I don't care. Hold on. I mean,
this is your fault. You did this by being both a debater and a moderator. When someone is supposed to be the moderator, they can't be a neutral party.
You knew what it was when you came in
causing
here.
this.
You don't understand.
Right, but now you're crashing out of the thing that you made.
So
relax.
I'm gonna finish my point. No, I'm not gonna fucking relax. You don't tell me to fucking relax. I'm gonna finish my point. I've been desperate. I have 2 points to make. 2 points to make. Been trying to get them out. Right? Fuck you too. Any which way. The other thing it changes is what we do on the ground. What the actions we take. There are two things. One, in terms of polling, right? One in terms of actual polling, and how people interact with us from there. But also, what our troops do. What do we do when we're, or not even necessarily our troops, but what does the invading government do? Of course, it matters the reason. The reason is not immaterial. That's all I'm trying to say. Literally 2 points. And you can shut the fuck up just for letting me make those 2 points. Okay, let's hear you, Jebtan.
Yeah, I'm just, again, same question. Where are you sourcing that it matters to them what our intention is? Because I understand your frustration.
Why wouldn't it matter?
But because they are suffering under immediate awful material conditions, why would it matter what the intention of the person is? Hold on. Yeah. Why would it matter what the intention of the person is that saves them from those immediate material issues? Like, I have the same argument that Prime has, and that's my frustration, is of course we're never going to be able to get the highest quality data under a despot. But if you look at the general sentiment, it seems to me very clear that they don't care what the intention of their hero is. They want someone to be their hero of Maduro. And the entire global community decided our intentions need to be correct before we depose Maduro. And Venezuelans were like, please stop fucking thinking that that's the case. We just want someone to come and depose Maduro.
May I hop in here?
We got Ali. He's been waiting. So we got
I was after Corey anyway. The reason it matters what the intention of the hero is, right? And why I get annoyed when you keep bringing up like Venezuelans outside of Venezuela cheering is because obviously, yes, they're happy. Everyone's happy that the dictator got thrown out, right? But the people outside of Venezuela don't have to deal with the conditions that come afterwards of this, right? They don't have to deal with the power struggle that comes in or the vacuum that comes in when you just remove the dictator, right? If this guy was as bad of a dictator as you're saying, it's not like the country's in a great spot, right? So it's like the aftermath that comes of this is something that only the Venezuelans that live on the ground are going to have to deal with. So obviously their concerns matter more than the ones who don't live in Venezuela. Obviously the ones who don't live in Venezuela, they never have to deal with any of the shit. It's kind of like people in Palestine or outside of Palestine. You can be like, oh yeah, Hamas is gone, but then also you're not a Palestinian living on the land. You don't know what the situation is.
But that's not totally honest, because the exodus was like a year ago. Like, they did have to live under this for so long. The exodus was a year ago. The grand exodus from Venezuela was in 2024.
I know, but they're not under it now, and they're not going to be under the future American takeover, right? They are out. They're out.
They will. Like, they're saying, I can finally move back.
This is getting frustrating. Listen. It is absolutely true that the individuals that live in Venezuela is going to be more important in terms of regime change, in terms of the governance structure, in terms of what we're doing, right? It is also true to recognize that all of these expats are talk to literally any Venezuelan that you know. They're overwhelmingly in support of American regime change. Now, granted, it is also true that these are the ones that are more likely to have the means of escape or the dedication to escape. They're more likely to be against Maduro, right? but you're not going to talk to fucking American expats and get the same fucking level of get the same level of like celebration and joy when a new president gets elected. Because they have been living under the yoke of oppression. Like, you talk to these people and they will tell you that, do you know what it's like to physically beat someone because you were so fucking hungry that you had to choose between your life or theirs? That's what I escaped. Okay, so we are talking about a place that is extremely bad. However, I've starved before, right? I've gone 3.5 days without food. That's the worst I've ever done. Okay, I can't say that I've starved in the way that starving consistently people have starved, but I can tell you there's a certain madness that comes with that. And I cannot even having experienced what little that I have, right, from being homeless and not having food for multiple days in a row and getting delirious, getting tired, tripping up, kind of starting to see shit, feeling I'm changing as a person, even all of that, there's something crazy there. And when you put food in their belly, and then when all of a sudden they start thinking again, and then all of a sudden the ideology of socialism that has gripped the entirety of South America for 100 years starts fucking rearing its head again. And then American corporations start doing something, and propaganda from the opposition starts talking about the evil capitalism of the West. And then when fucking you see some troops somewhere, this entire situation is a fucking tinderbox that is ready to light up on fire at any moment from any interaction. And that's something we also need to address. So we need to recognize that, yes, the idea that most Venezuelans are like very, very mixed about American intervention, just go fucking talk to a Venezuelan. And this cope that like, oh, well, these are the ones that left a year ago. They have families still there. Okay. Like we know most Venezuelans are happy this happened. Okay.
Well, and it's not
because
just
even if it's the
Venezuelans.
evil America that does it, it means that the grandma that didn't make it out might fucking live instead of die. Okay.
Yeah.
But
We got it.
that doesn't mean they're going to be
we have-
greeted as liberators
We
in the
have
future.
to move forward. There are people who are waiting. We got to move forward. Sorry.
I think it's my turn.
Hunter. Yeah, Hunter, and then
Okay. I mean, I want to steer this conversation because I think that this is the dumbest conversation to be having about this.
So if we want to continue this conversation, I can wait my turn until we're done. But
just go, man.
I want to ask what the fuck we do now. Like, what the fuck is the U.S. doing in Venezuela? And Big Gibbs, it seems like you agree. I don't know if we agree. Like, do we allow the VP and the rest of Maduro's cabinet to continue? Do we force a second election? Do we impose another leader? And if so, which one? There are two viable candidates that both of the population is arguing for. What do we do about the oil companies coming in? Do we have soldiers defending both the oil refineries and the facilities and the pipes in between? What happens if people bomb the oil pipes? How do we authorize force against Venezuelan terrorists against U.S. property? We are in such fucking murky water right now.
No, we're not. The
Why are we
Venezuelans are
not?
happy because the Venezuelans they're happy. That's it. Done. That's
Oh,
that's
you're
going
being
to be the answer.
sarcastic.
The answer is not. None of that's going to happen. That's what's
Hunter, I mean,
It's
with
not-
these
it's not
details,
true. None of it's going to happen. One of those
Wouldn't-
things has to happen. We're not going to
the
have
bombing,
Venezuela-
no, I'm talking about what happens when they bomb. What happens when this? Like, you guys
When
won't
who
engage with
bombed?
any of that. When the members of Maduro's party,
Pro-Maduro
yeah,
Venezuelans.
wouldn't
Bro,
wouldn't the
we-
details be sorted out like with negotiations with the current leadership? Because like
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the
what
vice
do you
president has
want to
taken.
happen? Because it seems like almost all of these are bad options.
Well, I think here's the first thing that needs to happen, and this is anything else comes after that. We have to have, as part of any negotiation, a monitored, free and fair election across all of Venezuela, and you have the candidates, they run, and you have the whole thing run not by Venezuela, but you have the whole thing run by like the
By
UN
U.S. soldiers.
or I'm thinking the UN or like some like maybe not the U.S. soldiers. I mean something that would like give it a lot of legitimacy. Whole bunch of like NGOs like make a lot of eyes on it, make it as legitimate as possible, and then like whoever wins the election, that's going to give us an idea of what to do next.
Every
do
libertarian
not
knows
foresee-
there's no such thing as a free and fair election.
Okay,
There's
Yep,
obviously
yep,
a
yep, 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 yep. You're right. Regardless. It's the least of all evils, worse, better than alternatives, et cetera, et cetera. And so what you would do is like how our negotiations go would really depend on that result. I do not think Maduro's party would win anywhere close to
I agree.
anything. But let's assume, for the argument's sake, that in a free and fair election, for some fucking reason, his party did win.
Contradiction in terms.
Then let's say they did win. Well, then I think our plans are going to have to scale back dramatically, right? Because I don't think that it would be worthwhile to try to impose ourselves on a country that's just proven itself entirely unwilling. But which is what I think will happen is you're probably going to have the more Western aligned parties dominate and win in some kind of massive landslide and radically reshift the government. And then we go to that new government and we negotiate with them. We say, look, here are like what we want to happen, what we want to see happen. We want to see these international agreements abided by, these international judgments like abided by. We want to, et cetera, and then we go from there. I think that would work.
I totally agree with you, and I think that all of that is very reasonable. The one thing that I'm fucking horrified by is the one thing that Trump has said will happen, because he's been really murky about a lot of things. The one thing that he said will happen is that oil companies are going to be going in and pulling oil from Venezuela. How the fuck are we protecting these people? How the fuck, are we all like? Is Gibbs the only one in support of this? I need some
In support of what?
in support of
Taking the
oil
oil
companies.
from Venezuela.
U.S. soldiers on oil companies is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, well, so the specifics, I think there are ways to protect the Venezuelans outside of that. No, I don't think we should cynically go in and keep oil nationalized and occupy the government and steal the oil. No, I think we support a democratically elected government. It can be either Edmundo or the Machado lady.
Yeah.
And you allow them. They are either that we know, like, it's not like we have to live in fairyland, like they're going to turn. They are either going to keep it nationalized, but trade more with Western nations, more openly between Eastern and Western nations, or they're going to allow the oil industry to be privatized again. And those companies are clearly going to.
They've already said they
I'm
will.
not talking about the oil after the election. I'm talking about the oil before the election when the U.S. companies are going to extract it.
No, we have to wait.
No,
I'm in favor of.
Yes,
I'm in favor of waiting until the election happens before we do something like that. What your concern is what if if Trump moves to do that beforehand? I would be opposed to that, right? I don't know what we would do in that case because I want to see the election first.
Yeah,
everything hinges on that.
Or you default to the last election and you just give Edmundo the power, right? But I agree there are issues with that because
Gibbs,
Machado
what do you advocate for? You're shaking your head.
It doesn't have institutional power.
He advocates for annexing it into America. That's what he. Come on, you know what he advocates for.
Institutional power. Machado does not have institutional power. Edmundo does, though.
Yeah, sure.
Muted Gibbs.
Anything else you want to say, Hunter, before we go on to Gibbs?
No, I also another question. Sorry, one last one. Which other despots are we going after? Because there's a lot. Is it?
Oh, I wanted to address this.
Yeah, is it only in our sphere of influence?
I have ideas.
No. Because I hear this objection a lot, which is like, well, we only seem to go after the despots that are it's like within our geopolitical interest to go after. This is just true. This is totally fair. I think that anybody saying that we have purely selfless motives is a great power, whereas any country has purely selfless motives, I think is naive. But I don't think that there needs to be selfless motives. Kind of going to Jeb's point, I don't think there needs to be selfless motives for us to say, well, this is still justified and it's still good. Like if I,
but I don't think that's what the question is. I don't think it's. I'm saying what's our not. Is it a selfish rationale? But what is the rationale? Like what specific? What are the metrics that we now use?
Yeah. So here's the metrics, right?
You're asking the wrong thing. The number one metric. You should be asking the Trump administration.
No, the number one metric is.
You know what I mean? Like,
is this within our
viable question in the debate?
Is this within our geopolitical self-interest? Right. I'm just like what I believe how the U.S. operates and how every country operates. Is it within XYZ country's best interest? Is it in terms of just national security, I suppose? And then I think there's national economic interest. And then I think somewhere down the line, there's like this concept of morality that comes in. Now, we tend to harp on the morality one because that sounds the best. I get it. But I think Jeb was actually like pretty fucking spot on. So what? To some degree, like the
Venezuelans
Jews.
don't
I don't think the Jews who are being liberated from the camps were saying like, well, why did you do that though? Like, do you really have the purest of
I understand
intentions?
that.
But
I just
no, like they're free now. Like, yeah, did we
We're
free
liberators
everybody?
now.
Yeah, did we free everybody when we like rescued the Jews? No, there was still plenty of like oppressed people and dictators. It was awful. And in fact, we cooperated with a lot of dictators around that time. But that doesn't nullify that it is still good
Pretty
to
big
do good
one.
things.
Pretty big one we cooperated with.
Oh, for sure,
Hold
and
on.
not just the communist ones, but also Franco. And
Hold on,
Yeah,
hold
I
on.
mean,
No, and that's-
Hold on,
that's
but
the-
back to it. You guys objected to my comparisons previously, like with Vietnam and Trump to Maduro, right? But then like
On what
what you would
grounds
counter
did
with
I
is
disagree?
the Venezuelans are like the Jews in death camps. Like
no, so
the
I
reason-
use the Jews as like a hyperbolic example to demonstrate my point, which is even though like the U.S. only got involved for reasons entirely unrelated, like it is still a good thing. Like there's still moral justification somewhere, as long as it is either an
Yeah.
effect of or even some kind of far down motivation. Right? I think that still
Churchill-
in of
hold
itself
on,
can help
but hold
justify
on.
it.
Let's hold on. But the point that I was making previously is that it matters what reasons you go in there for, right? So in this case, to use your point again, hyperbolic, right?
Sure.
The reasons why the Americans freed the German or the Jews from the death camps was because
They were German
they wanted
Jews,
the
usually.
German.
To be fair,
Yeah.
Well, they're
It was
Polish.
because they wanted the credit for killing the Jews themselves, right?
What?
In that case,
No.
obviously it's not true.
This is
right?
hypothetical.
But like if
Silly.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
hypothetical. Yes,
All right.
hypothetical. obviously,
I missed that at first too. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no worries. But like, if that was the case, that would affect the way they view it, right? Like, they get to live like an extra a few months, right? But still, in the end, they're going to die,
Yeah.
right? Like, it matters the reasons.
Oh,
why.
well, hold on. Yeah, of course it
That's-
matters. Like it changes the degree of good, or maybe even reverse it to bad in that particular case. Like I'm never saying it's not relevant. I'm just saying that it seems to me that a lot of people will hang their hat on the idea of, well, unless the U.S. has purely selfless motivations, like the U.S. doesn't even have
No.
any ground. I'm not saying maybe
To be clear,
you're doing
not
this,
what I'm
right?
doing.
I don't think I'm
But
doing that
sure,
either.
sure.
Yeah.
But like the U.S. doesn't have any ground to stand on. I think we do. I think that you can be selfish and still help other people out, and like that, if as long as that's some kind of motivation you have,
Look,
cool.
I agree
Like
with you.
that's not a bad thing.
I'm mostly, to be clear, I am mostly anti-intervention, but not
Me too.
completely so. I'm not a
Yeah.
pacifist, right? I've made that very clear. And that like I think it's okay that the U.S. can want something while doing something good. So I'm there with you as well, right?
Sure.
So we're that far, but like in terms of how the people will view us, well, that actually I think it matters to them why we're there, right? Like if they feel like they're being robbed, people feel like they're being robbed, right? Yeah, that's a big deal. And remember, like there's a euphoria for Maduro be gone. Again, I'm giving you like the most grace, right? Let's go on your side. Let's say assuming that the people want them gone, right? Like absolutely 100% want them gone, right? Well, then at some point he's gone, and it's like, what does the rest of my life look like?
I already
right?
raised my hand.
That's
If
why
the
the
rest
election
of-
is so important.
If the rest
Oh,
of your
that was
life,
just ridiculous. I'm next
again,
anyway.
hypothetical, and
I
I'm
think
not
it's
saying this is
Corey's
going to
turn.
happen, right? But if the rest, no, Corey went previously. If the rest of your life looks like being under like the American jackboot, right? Like let's say like a Pinochet, right? Like let's say like an awful dictatorship. Well, then at some point the euphoria disappears, and they're like, yeah, fuck these invaders, right? Like all these things.
Pinochet
matter.
was
It
initially
matters.
justified.
Well, and also that was a bad
Thank you.
example because Pinochet, I'm pretty sure, like lasted until he peacefully gave up power. I don't think he was actually.
I don't know why that would make a difference. But like the point is that like it matters what the rest of their life looks like. Because we keep thinking tactically. What Hunter was talking about before. Yeah, what comes afterwards? So we're saying we're looking at polling. Well, we're barely looking at polling data from this very moment in time. But like we may be looking at a conflict that goes on for years, or engagement anyway that goes on for years.
Yeah,
Right?
that's worst
What
case
does that
scenario.
look like? What does that mean? How do we handle that?
Well, that's what I would like to talk about here. So
Gibbs.
so yeah.
hey,
Oh,
I raised my hand first.
No, I've been
Okay.
waiting. I've been
Yeah,
waiting
but
on
you
Jeb.
talked the entire fucking time.
Yes.
Gibbs.
So,
That's
like,
not true at all. Wait,
The
I've had
entire
less
fucking
fucking
time.
Hold on,
time
the
than
entire
Vegas,
time.
Unbiased
and
moderator.
Lactoid
Well, no, we're
and
going to
you.
Gibbs.
Oh,
We're going
I
to
was
You
Gibbs.
I was
piss him
after.
off, you get
Hold on, I
you
was
get
after
booted to
Hunter
the end.
anyway. I didn't have a chance to respond to anything. So I would like to answer. Obviously, my preferred thing would be let's just fucking annex it. Now, do I think that's likely? No. So let's talk about what I think is likely to come next, right? I think it's interesting that right now in Congress, in the Senate and the House, we have two bills being pushed through. One by a Mike Lee and one by Congressman Burchett, right? And both of them are wanting to reintroduce, excuse me, letters of marque. Now, if you don't know what letters of marque are, those are what we give to people that want to be buccaneers, aka we're reintroducing the age of piracy to the world. And I'm pretty excited because I think this is the first step to how we handle fucking Venezuela. We let Exxon and Philip Conoco go in there. And then we have the wonderful people that they hire there, the
Are you happy with
Venezuelan
what you
people.
facilitated,
Hold on. We
guys?
have them bring in their U.S. people to help train the Venezuelan workers to work for less money than they do, and then they exploit them. I mean, pay them a better wage than they're making under Maduro, which was jack shit. So we're gonna do what they do whenever we hear Non-Fon, for example, talk about child labor. It's where he says it's good because these people do get paid, and it helps bring their nation out of poverty, and eventually they make enough money that then they stop doing child labor. Now that sounds bad, but this is how
I've agreed with everything Gibbs has said so far. Like, let's bring back private piracy. Let's let the
it's gonna get
corpos
big.
handle
It's about to get
this.
real big.
A little child labor.
You
You
let
know,
this happen,
We're
guys.
starving.
You
It's going to
let
get
this
worse
happen.
in a second too. And then what we do instead of the real problem right here is you have the socialist communist remnants of whatever Maduro's government that's probably going to be some guys. They're going to actually be a cartel. Then they're going to probably take their military training like the Zetas did and run off and create a group. Then we have the other groups that are cartels down there. Those are going to be the real threats to stability. Well, the way you handle that is this cool group. I don't know if you heard of them. Blackwater. But they don't exist no more. So we'll just make a new version and we can just hire those fuckers. Or even better, we can give another U.S. ally that private contract because we clearly, just like we've very clearly established, don't give a shit about what people do as the government if they're on our side. As example with Rwanda, where we gave them a trade deal where we rewarded them invading another country that they really had no legal right to, and now they own a third of the Congo, and now U.S. companies are exploiting minerals there. And why don't we just do what the UN has done, and we just hire a bunch of Rwandans, and they can come in there, and they can police the state for us, and then all we get is oil cheaper, the Venezuelans get jobs, and the cartels get killed by an African nation. And what do we get? Whoopins. We've handed out whoopins. We made money, and everybody wins. You're
Gibbs is
welcome.
honest and is
Can we hit it as
is-
somebody who's like not
It's not that he's
schizophrenic or-
honest.
It's not
Okay.
schizophrenic.
Everyone here is
quick
being honest.
correction.
Okay,
Hold on.
Yeah.
This is
Quick
what
correction.
this is what we're
Very
wanting to do.
overt.
Quick thing.
No,
quick
hold
thing,
on.
Gibbs.
extreme.
Quick
He's very
thing,
extreme.
Gibbs. For the record, I just want to point out, Blackwater never went away. It just got
Yeah, it was
purchased by
rebranded.
Z,
Yeah.
So-
and then it got purchased, and
What-
now it's Constellus Holdings.
Sure. I wasn't
they
going to
sell-
go down the
When I say-
rabbit
when I
hole,
say
but you
Gibbs
know
is
what I
being
meant.
honest, when I say Gibbs is
No,
being
I'm saying we can
honest,
hire Constellus. You know,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
the thing
Yeah,
that he
same thing.
wants that's probably likely to kind of happen. Not so much annexation, but it's
No.
kind of just going. It's kind of just going in and big dicking it, right? It's who's going to stop America if you attack us? Then you want to go to war with. I guess we get to conquer you at that point. It is when I say honest, I mean like
Send in the MiG tanks.
you and Lactoids like keep like pussyfooting around it. It's just like
No,
Well,
we're
Lactoid,
giving
when you
the
say- when-
realistic.
when you
What
say
have
this
I
is legal-
pussyfooted around at
Yeah,
all?
when you say this is legal, when you say this is legal, as in like
I think it is.
Well, if those
It
bills
is-
pass,
I
piracy
Gibbs
is
believes
bad.
it's legal.
Well, hold on.
Yeah, what's
if
legal-
those
what's
two,
legal
hold on.
about
Y'all
it?
said Hunter said I was schizophrenic for saying this. Why? If I'm schizophrenic, why is Rwanda the leader now in Africa? They took all our French's military contracts, right? They
They're
work for
not.
the
I'm
They
schizophrenic.
are. They
Why
are.
am I
You're just
seeing a
wrong.
wolf
Hold
in
on,
the
Jeb.
corner of my
You're,
room?
Jeb, you're wrong.
Rwanda is
hold-
not in charge in Africa.
But
This
you're
is just
wrong.
a lie.
Actually,
I always hear voices.
Actually,
I'm pretty
hold
sure
on.
I'm the
You're
expert on that.
actually
Okay?
what
I don't think I'm.
This is the most untrue statement Jeb has said all night. He needs to go do some research. Rwanda took all of France's contracts. They've been vastly successful with their terrorism shit, anti-terrorism
Gibbs
shit.
knows
They
his
own the oil.
conflict for some reason.
I've got it like down. They own this. They're the biggest supplier of troops to the UN peacekeeping operations in Africa. Right? They're all over the place. Now, what I'm saying is, hold on. What I'm saying is, whenever we look, why is it that we already have senators and congressmen putting forth letters of marque? Well, clearly they have a reason.
Mike Lee.
Rwanda is also number
Well,
one
sure,
in female engineers.
But hold on, if Mike Lee's a psycho,
progressives?
do you think that he's doing this on his own? Obviously, somebody's put him up to it. It's probably his backers. I would say his lobbyists or Trump people. Same thing with whatever his name is. So these guys are pushing an agenda. Obviously, we want to open it up so we can have private corporations doing more military shit.
A lot of these bills that go through are just a signal to their base. It's not because they're realistic.
You think his base sits here and goes, "Oh yeah, when I wanted to vote for Mike Lee and Congressman Hutcherson or whatever his fucking name was, I was thinking, you know what? Let's bring back the age of piracy. That's why I voted for them."
Hold on, are either of them from coastal states? We need to know. Are they inland or coastal?
Mike Lee's my
Tennessee is the other one. So no, Utah and Tennessee.
So both inland. Clearly, it's not for their voter base. Okay, because if it was for their voter base, they'd have to be a coastal region. There's no people wanting to do piracy in Utah.
I know this sounds schizophrenic, but like these things they keep saying keep coming true over time. So clearly, I haven't. It's just crazy. It's
Let's let Jeb in.
I can't handle you saying how many times, dude. Just wait. I'm right about everything.
Because it comes true every time. I sound crazy.
It does.
Crazy like a fuck.
It does.
It's not.
Every time I say.
Let's go to Jeb.
Yeah, listen, hey, and because he passed it to me, I want everyone in chat to know I support Kai backstaging me, okay? He has the imperial mandate to take power on this platform. But anyway.
It's legal.
So
it's a private club with voluntary membership.
Yes, and Kai does a good job. He's trying to facilitate, and I get it. And I am a rambler. But listen, the reason why people would rather, on the other side, would rather Gibbs ramble than me ramble is when I ramble, I am rambling in depth on one point, whereas Gibbs is rambling shallowly on 17,000 different points, and it creates one of those county fair shooting galleries that the liberals can shoot down because he didn't go in depth on any one point. Here's the issue. Venezuela is not like any of these other countries because there is no like massive third-party backed or popular mandate for the existing party. Once if there is even the slightest excuse to depose the existing party, there will be overwhelming support and lasting overwhelming support against that party. Why does it not matter that America has the wrong incentive? Gibbs made up a wild incentive, and a couple people did. America's incentive to join World War II was because Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. And yet we were still the good guys when we defeated the Germans, when we defeated the Japanese by nuking them twice. We were still the good guys in all of that. And the reason being is it doesn't necessarily matter. It can, the intention of the aggressing party only matters as it informs the continued action of that aggressing party.
Someone read their third grade social studies textbook and inherited that narrative real quick.
No, it's correct. So the reason
World War II, Pearl Harbor, 2 bombs. We good guys. All right, buddy.
Hey, Nagasaki, hold this L.
Listen, hold on, stop. I obviously have more sophisticated views on World War II that I can't break down in 10 seconds, but people don't want me to ramble, so I'm trying not to.
How base would have been if Truman said,
doing it
around
anyway.
and find out.
Oh my God, no, I'm not. I'm probably
What's he saying that's wrong? I don't.
Or he said he was trying not to. Just to be clear.
Just like I asked for myself to be able to finish. Let's let Jeb.
Yeah, I went for like 35 seconds uninterrupted. So the reason why Prime Kai's hypothetical justification of the U.S., if we just wanted to be the ones that had the credit to kill all the Jews, the reason the intention matters in that case is not because intention matters. It's because intention only matters as far as continued action is predicted by the intention. If America only defeated the Germans because we wanted to be the ones that had the credit for killing the Jews, if that mattered, it only mattered because, well, if we defeated the Germans, the Jews would still die. The reason why the U.S.'s oil intention for Venezuela doesn't matter is because it predicts the same future action, which is a democratically elected government of Venezuela that will either privatize the oil or will be more open in their trade of the oil. either way, it means the same desired end for Venezuelans, which is a neutral or Western-leaning government that will trade with the West and the East more equitably. And that's what the Venezuelans want, because what happened wasn't they got the oil nationalized and they were freed by Maduro, and now they're under the jackboot of the US. No, they were under the jackboot of Russia before when the oil got nationalized. And now they will be under the jackboot of the US, which just so happens to be okay with you trading with Russia and China as long as you also trade with the West, which leads to ubiquitously positive outcomes for all of Venezuelans. So, like, it doesn't matter the intention in this context.
So one, I think your formulation of this is incorrect. But before I get there, right, like, Maduro, and it's something I wanted to address a long time ago. Maduro like gave in. He like acquiesced like completely. Maduro said like, hey, like if you want to come in to develop our national oil interests, go ahead, right? I'm leaving the door open to all of you to do this, right? And all I ask, meaning Maduro, all he asks is to stay in power or to have some sort of like, easy exit or something. I don't know, right? But like he wanted to be in charge. That was his number one thing, right? If he could do all that while being in charge, he reached out to Trump on multiple occasions. He even talked about it on national TV. I'm reaching out, right? And he acquiesced the entire way. Why did we invade any which way? Why did we take him?
Because he's still under the jackboot of China, who always has owned 65 to 80% of Venezuelan oil.
But he was asking to be under our jackboot. He was like, okay, go ahead. Like, and it's not as if the Venezuelans weren't trading previously with us. Like, the Venezuelans are open to doing business. The oil industry
after China gets picked up.
That might be, I feel like I need to clip that. Right?
Sure.
The Venezuelans under Maduro, they're open to doing business. This socialist dictatorship that praises the nationalization of the oil industry and fucking the American companies out of their private property. They're open to doing business. They're so like, come on. Such an absurd notion that like, yeah, sure. He said some things that like there person with
that's
a
what
brain
politicians do.
thinks,
they have to send
but China's but China still has 65 to 80% of their oil.
If Trump says something that is good, are you going to go, oh well, clearly Trump is on my side now?
No.
No, you're going to be like, Trump's lying because he's lying all the time.
Give him the opportunity. Hold on. If you're making an offer, right, and then we give you the opportunity to make that offer, and then you don't make an offer, we can safely say yes, that was bullshit, right? But if you make an offer and then you deny the
they make an offer while like, I'm not saying this is legitimate. I got to preface this, right? But they're making that offer while going around the embargoes against Cuba while we're in those presumed negotiation phase, right?
Well,
so they're not allowed.
Why wouldn't they do that? Why wouldn't they do that?
Okay, but you can't say I'm making an offer to be under your jackboot while also directly defying you. Like that makes no sense.
But first of all, they need the money now, right? Not later. They need the money now, and Trump has given them no indication that he's going to actually start trade, right? So they're saying preemptively, stop trading with Cuba, stop getting the money that you clearly desperately need from Cuba or anywhere else, and for the hopes that at some point in time, an adversarial administration will work with you, or can we start the negotiations now? Can we have like a good faith back and forth, right? And do the thing where like you do something and then I do something. We build trust.
This is code, right? Like if Maduro was serious, he absolutely could have sent a diplomatic attaché or of some kind to the United States and said like, here's what we're willing to do. Here's a contract of things we're willing to let.
He was trying to call. I don't understand. Like he contacted the Trump administration. What difference does it make if he says? I don't know if he did send a diplomatic attaché. I can't say one or the other, right? But they reached out. If the president of the country is reaching out, I don't know how high level it becomes.
No, but Kai,
You're
here's
saying
no,
like
but let me-
he
real quick.
railed in speeches and in public appearances and
Yeah,
openly
he said
confidently
Trump literally
that he was
come get me.
against the evils of capitalism.
And he
That
actually
he was
He did say
against
that.
all
Come
these
and get me. I'm right here,
Yeah, he
coward.
said
He
Trump
literally
Well,
said
that was
that.
later in the
He's not gonna get- he's not
negotiations.
gonna-
So
no, no.
technically he
He
consented,
has-
by the way. He said to come get me.
He has domestic. It's true.
Just
He has
saying.
domestic pressures, right? Their politics isn't all American politics. Isn't all how America views them, right? He has a domestic pressure, a party, or for whatever it is, right? To answer to, like him being in power
doesn't
is
have to
only by
answer
the
to.
consent of the powerful there and a portion of the people. So yeah, actually, he can't just be like, all of a sudden, I'm a capitalist, right? Like that
No,
would be the
I get
end
that.
He
of
could have.
Well, hold on.
Like,
Let
this
me-
is just such a silly cope. Like
Yeah.
no, Jeb, this isn't your panel, right? This is silly cope.
I
there's-
haven't had the majority of the talking time. To be clear here, it has been you and Kai that
Right,
have
I'm
the
responding.
majority
You're
of the
like,
talking
hold on, I'm better.
Yeah.
I got a better point here. Like, sure, go right after me. I don't care. Let fucking Prime decide. What I'm saying is this is silly. Okay, there are so many ways that he could have signaled, along with that he was actually interested in allowing American oil companies or some form of open trade negotiations. One of those would have just been any form of communication saying or any action to just follow the embargo, right? Like you can't you're saying, oh well, he needed the money. Oh, he doesn't actually have that power. He has to be beholden towards the power of the people there and the precarious regime there. Oh, and he's under the thumb of China, so he has no choice. Like Maduro's not an innocent victim that like wanted to
Agreed.
talk to Americas and wanted to work with the capitalists, but just couldn't, right? Like he didn't want to. He threw out some bullshit to muddy the waters in political discourse, and now you're carrying that very water for him right now.
Okay, Jeb.
Yeah, no, so my point isn't like that. It's sort of on a different plane. What you have to understand, Kai, is some of what Scott is saying, but also, yes, if a guy who's been under China BRICS essentially, but mainly China and Russia's jackboot for his entire regime, spitting in the face of America, is suddenly desperately saying, as he is starting to lose grip on popular support and power, I'll play ball with you, despite the fact that China has historically had 65 to 80% of his oil exports. Why do you trust him over, and this is the extra dimension, the popular support for basically anyone who would be more open with trading with the United States? The US knows that if Maduro is deposed, the popular support is backing exclusively people who would rather have Venezuela overwhelmingly trade their oil with the West and the United States. Why do we need to take a guy's word who has been under the boot of China for his entire political career over just deposing him and allowing the natural democracy, without you having to expend a ton of political or military capital, voting in somebody who is just naturally on a
And
trade?
so I guess the difference here between myself and, well, I'm not going to say for Scott. I'm going to leave Scott out of this for a second. But it seems like for you is that I'm actually an anti-imperialist, right? I don't think the U.S. has the ability, right, to solve its problems, to just go in and steal someone else's or kidnap someone else's
Government
ruler,
doesn't have
right?
the
Government,
ability
yeah.
to solve
We don't
problems, huh?
No, I agree. Yeah, no, on that level.
Yeah, so just to say, like imagine what foreign policy looks like for a Denmark, right, where you don't have the ability to project force, right, and then you have to actually talk things out, right? Like we have the ability to do that, especially Maduro wanted to talk, right? Like to say that, like, why should we trust this individual? That's diplomacy. right? We engage in diplomatic relations with lots of people of various amounts of trustworthiness, right? Various amounts of credibility, various amounts of ability to actually execute on their actions, right? Like this is the spectrum of diplomacy. That's what I'm saying that we should be engaging in diplomacy, especially since we already had massively the upper hand, right? Like removing the military component for a second, right? We still had a massive upper hand within these negotiations. Yes,
I get
do
it.
that rather than intervene, right? Because I'm an anti-imperialist. But if you think like the state, right, has the ability, right, to just do all these things, well then of course, yeah, why even bother, right? Just go assassinate, right? In fact, why don't we just put a viceroy in charge and run things directly? Just do any of that.
Kai, what I'm saying is like
Wipe them out.
I get
All of them.
I agree with you that ideally we would be operating on a diplomatic level without force and blah blah blah, blah, right? Maduro is an imperialist. Maduro only speaks the language of exercised power, and so I respect I agree. The state does not have the right to just exert power to get whatever they want. But we live in a world where they are doing that anyway. And Maduro is doing that. And he will not respond to when China is on one side of him saying, we will exert force to crush you if you don't support us. We cannot be Denmark in response because we'll never out Denmark China, who will
China
exert
was
force.
Crush Venezuela? Like,
yes.
What was what would that look like? You think there would be Chinese boots on the ground in Venezuela? That was an option?
No. So China would no longer provide the financial backing of the Maduro regime he relied upon to steal the election.
Which gives us the upper hand.
Yeah,
again.
but hold on. What we're talking about is a transition, though. Like I said, he was like inviting America's boot on his neck. He was inviting them to do that.
Yeah, because he realized
we
that
had the upper hand.
No, he wasn't inviting their
hand.
boot on his. Hold on. He wasn't inviting America's boot on his neck. He was inviting America to take a 20% share in his neck, of which China owned 80%. Because they had 80% of his oil exports. So it's like we could exert some power, but he was basically saying, fuck the Venezuelan people that I'm supposed to preside over.
You just said the Chinese would have pulled out.
Guys, so maybe you all can, this might be helpful. Maybe you guys can all just like lay out like what your vision, and we have a short amount of time. We'll see if we can do this, right? What your vision of foreign policy is, right? Like my vision of foreign policy doesn't include a world where everyone necessarily agrees with us or bends to our will immediately, right? That like there are going to be nations that have relations with adversaries, and that we just have to be okay with that. That like Venezuela, like in my world, right? Yeah, Venezuela might do a lot of business with Russia and China and Iran, right? That might be a thing, but also hopefully because we have open and productive relationships with them as well, with us too. Right, that we could actually do that to foster a good relationship while understanding that they're going to be sending oil shipments to people that we don't like. Like that, that's what my vision includes.
It's not just that though. It's that China is going to use force to ensure that the shipments to China are a vast majority of the oil exports of Venezuela.
So that has to happen sometimes.
No, stop. But if that has to happen, why does American force not have to happen? What I'm saying is you guys have a vastly Eastern-friendly view where when China exerts force, it's a neutral happenstance of situationship and circumstance
at all.
But America reciprocating is evil.
China did not go and kidnap a foreign ruler.
They didn't have to. He was already playing ball with them.
Yes, I know. Yes, he had friendly relations. And then you're saying because because they didn't, he didn't give us the best deal. Well, then that means we have the legitimacy to go and take him out. No, I reject that legitimacy.
It's not the best deal.
But it seems like other people on this panel, they're okay with that. Hey,
Yeah.
I mean
No.
Gibbs is. I mean, I understand that. Like,
What I'm
shout out to
saying
Gibbs.
is strip it
I
all
don't
away.
recognize Maduro as legitimate leader. He
Yeah,
did
what
I
I'm
None of
saying,
that.
He's a
That
criminal.
also doesn't matter.
He's a
That
criminal.
also doesn't matter in terms of this,
Prod,
right?
can I ask you a question?
why not?
We don't care about a
Prod, let me ask you a
leader,
question.
right? A
I
legitimate transfer of
do.
power. You
I
know
care.
that.
Only
You
if
do,
you
but the
agree
U.S.
with
government
me,
doesn't.
that
Or we
Prod,
No,
wouldn't
I
be
think the
able-
U.S.
That doesn't
government does
matter.
care, not like as much as like other considerations. But again, I don't think it has to be the top one.
But
Is
what
Zelensky a
difference
Hold
does
on,
that
legitimate
hold
make?
leader?
on. Prod, can I ask you a question,
No,
Prod?
but again,
Yeah.
not as much as other considerations. Is what I
Yes,
just
he
said.
is.
Well, Prime, you brought
No,
up
no,
like
he's not.
you brought up that we have to
Legitimately
do
elected.
business. You brought the
No.
Prime. You brought up you have to do. Some countries are going to do business with like our adversaries, right? And like I know that like, jokingly people have been calling this like the Donroe Doctrine, right? Or, which is an ode to the Monroe Doctrine. Where
Well,
it's
some
like,
people have been calling
so-
it Trump's dead. Some people
some
have
people,
been.
sure,
Who
some people
knows?
have. I don't know.
allow them
Sports
to
Illustrated. Yeah, he's quoting Becky Lynch or whatever. Anyway, so when I'm sitting here going, oh, I can see why he would not want like our adversaries like in this hemisphere because like I guess like I the way I look at things going forward, I think the Erbo has failed, but two, I think that it's kind of starting to like line up, right? And we have BRICS stand in. I know it's not exactly BRICS because India's kind of wish-washy, but it's basically China, North Korea, Russia, Venezuela, Cuba, and then a few other minor powers. They're all getting on one side, and then we have the rest of the people on the other, and then we have Europe looking out for themselves, America looking out for themselves now. And I'm kind of thinking, like going forward, it's going to become more strict. Like if you're in the Western Hemisphere, you're not doing business with these countries. And I think it's actually the opposite of what you said, Prime, where these countries, we don't have to be okay with them doing business because we are the superpower. And like I know you're saying that's not legitimate, but I'm saying I
what
don't
I've
think
been
there is.
saying
I don't
for a
think there's
long
any
time. I know
legitimacy,
you
and I know
do.
y'all know that I've just been saying this, but I don't think there's any legitimacy to international law whenever we have the ICC is not recognized by the U.S. and we literally have the Hague Act where we'll send troops in. We don't respect
Let's
international law at all.
Let's ignore the international law
Sure,
bit
okay.
for a second. So let's do a yes or no thing, and hopefully this is quick, right? Like, do people support the common understanding of the Monroe Document, right? Like, and that like the U.S. like has control over the Western Hemisphere. That is their sphere of influence, right? And then has the right to do operations like this to continue that control. I know it's a lot more complicated, it's more complex. That's why I'm not saying the common understanding of the Monroe Doctrine, right? So, yes or no? Do you support that? Galactic, we're going to go down the line.
I've got a more complicated answer, but sort of.
Sorry. Let me give you. I'll give you a minute.
I can do it in one sentence.
Okay.
So
One long run-on sentence.
one long run sentence, exactly.
A Scott sentence. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe a paragraph. I do think the United States has a justified interest, like security interest, in making sure all the countries in the Western Hemisphere don't pose a threat to it. I don't think that should mean that the U.S. gets to like dictate terms and completely control all countries in the Western Hemisphere, like on their personal lives, economic, etc.
Okay. Thank you. Scott, please.
I tacitly, in the most soft way possible, support the original intent behind the Monroe Doctrine, but not what people mean when they say the Monroe Doctrine. If you actually understand the Monroe Doctrine, it's not even what you just said, right? Like the Monroe Doctrine is an agreement that we will not allow Europe to colonize in the Americas, and we won't be involved in European wars. That this is kind of our sphere of influence as the dominant partner in this region to avoid conflict and to localize powers.
Yes, I agreed. Again, I'm trying to get the simplified version that everyone's talking about, but fair enough. Let's go to our friend Corey.
Well, the way you framed it, Prime, I lean towards no.
Okay, thank you. A Hunter?
I believe you're muted.
You're a muted, friend.
Sorry. I'm going to say largely no.
Largely no. Want to add anything else? You can if you like.
I don't know. It's not great what we do in a lot of Latin American countries, but I do think that we are pretty reasonable. I don't know. I'm gonna say largely no.
Okay. You've been very clear, Gibbs. Let's go to Ali.
I think a lot of people see it that way, but no, we shouldn't be that way.
Okay, and then please, Jeb.
Yeah, so I might have like a biased interpretation of what the general America's view on the Monroe Doctrine is, but I think if you go to Latin America, as far as they understand it, they're overwhelmingly supportive. But I have overwhelmingly been informed by Dominican Republic, who is very pro-America, so that might be my thing. But generally, Latin America, yes. If you ask them, are Europeans going to have a say in what we do, or is the United States going to have a say in what we do? And would we rather be more like Europe or the US? They ubiquitously say the US.
No, independently from what they
Ubiquitous is
may
word
feel,
of the
like, what do
day.
you feel? So is that how you feel, Jeb? That like,
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah, of course. Like, but I'm biased because I'm in the US. Obviously, Europe is a bunch of fucking loser cucks who believe in socialism, and the US is the closest thing to freedom anyone in the world will ever get. And so everyone should be more like the US.
Ever?
And
God
so
damn.
like, it seems like to me
gotta-
though, like, I mean, we have 3 libertarians on panel. It seems like once again,
One.
Scott is the only real one. I was just to say it that like Scott says like no, like again, as I described the Monroe Doctrine very specifically, right? He says no. Like
I have a question for the
ability-
no's. I have a question for the people who said no. Would you guys tolerate China making some deal with Mexico to put their military assets on our border?
No.
On
Well,
your
the
border?
the-
No.
I feel like the border is a very big distinction here.
Yeah.
Because like
What if it's
putting
in the southern
military
border of
assets on a
Mexico?
border is like
Oh,
is like an act of aggression.
Yeah. So what if it's in the Yucatan?
No,
like, on the
I'm not
Yucatan
talking about like
Peninsula?
right on the border. I'm saying like,
Right,
would you guys be okay with like Mexico or Canada? Let's just go with our neighbors first. Like signing some treaty with China.
Yeah, they got a
to where
naval base in
China's
the
going to
Gulf.
flood them. It's going to flood them
Is it-
with weapons. And like they're going to align militarily. Like, are you guys going to tolerate that? Because I'm not. There's no way.
Isn't
Yeah.
Canada aligned with UK or Europe or whatever? Like, aren't
No,
they under the
both,
king? Or
no,
whatever?
both Canada and Mexico are aligned with us.
I
So-
guarantee I'm the most extreme here, right?
Oh,
And in
boy.
fact, you've already heard this opinion from me previously, right? And that I'm saying that a lot of our adversaries, they deserve nukes to
Yeah.
protect them from
But no, but you only you said
American aggression.
well, you said Israeli aggression last time. Are you including America now?
Israel as an extension of American aggression, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So
Jesus
but-
Christ.
hold on, and I'm actually serious about this.
And y'all thought I had the most
I-
wild.
because
Y'all-
I see.
We all
I know,
believe you.
know, like I said, I'm extreme. No, fair enough, right? In terms of American politics, anyway, it's maybe not so extreme in terms of around the world how other people think, right? Because
No,
I
it's
can
pretty
have more,
extreme worldwide to
I
think
can
we should
have
give
more cosmopolitan
dictatorships nukes. Like that's
Hold on, I have a more.
Aren't you in favor of
cosmopolitan
nukes
this.
for everybody, Scott? Like,
Exactly. Exactly.
no.
Would've
You
been
would
whoever
think,
can
you would
afford
think
them.
with your steel trap memory, you wouldn't straw man me.
okay,
but
well
in
then,
any
what is your
case-
position on nukes then? As in your next door neighbor can or cannot have nukes?
Hold on.
I've gone into
Those are
great
American
detail
citizens
on
should be able to
this
have
before,
nukes, not
right,
other
that-
countries.
No, I've gone into great detail on this.
God doesn't
before
believe in
that, like,
countries.
that states having nukes is obviously different than private ownership. A, and that B, having a nuclear weapon requires an extreme degree of assurances to those around you that you would not use said nuclear weapon.
I
because it's
alter,
essentially
I,
the same as pointing a gun at
I
somebody.
alter my position, right? I am for right.
Elon Musk could.
private.
I'd be pro
I'm
Elon Musk on
for
nukes.
large conglomerate powers, right, within these various countries, right, within Iran, having nukes, right? Not the
Jesus
state,
Christ.
just some large conglomerate to do that. Okay, right, and with all the insurances that Scott wants. But in any case,
Well,
what
then
I'm
they would
saying
cease
is-
to be Iran
what
in
I'm
any
saying is
meaningful
here
way.
that it's perfectly fair. It's perfectly fair if the U.S. is going to engage in encirclement, which is what we're doing to China right now, right? Like putting assets in the Philippines, in Japan, in Korea, and anywhere else we can possibly fit them, Australia, right? Putting assets there to encircle them and threaten China, it would make sense that they would be able to do something similar, right?
They
and
do.
if they did that,
But what if those other
They
countries
absolutely
access
have
to
done that.
And last thing,
They
last
tried
sentence,
that with Venezuela.
Last sentence. And if they did that with the intent of negotiating a pullback of our forces, then I think that's pretty fair.
Prime, but-
Actually, yes.
But they haven't.
Other
But
people,
Prime,
They've done it. They've done it to attempt to try and be the
But
world
what-
superpower.
what-
They have
hold on.
They build. They go into
But the-
African coastal areas all the time.
But hold on,
South
there's a-
China
there's-
Sea.
and use,
hold on,
and
there's a
use
second
like
question, though.
brutal. brutal means to be able to build like docks and things like that.
I agree.
To try and
Hold on,
expand their
hold on,
naval
hold
power.
on. Prime.
Fuck the CCP. This is not a pro
But-
CCP argument.
So you have a problem
Right, I'm
with
just
us
saying they
encircling-
do that. Like you're already describing
Hold
reality
on. So you-
as if it's an if.
Hold on. There's another question to be
Sorry,
have to
I'm
ask
a
here
little
with the Prime.
confused.
So you're sitting here, Prime, you're saying, okay, if China wants to encircle us the way we're encircling China, well, part of the reason why we're encircling China is because those countries ask us to be there. The Philippines asking us to be there. Japan asking us to be there. Taiwan, whether you think they're a country or not, they're asking us to be there. Like, are you saying those countries now don't have the right to ask for the most powerful country in the world to come put their base there and defend them? Like, encircle China.
I
Is
think. Sorry. When
It's
we're
weird to
talking-
hear Gibbs like wake up from his coma and say like a cogent point.
I mean, these have all been cogent points. You just got to follow.
With the exception of Taiwan, right? The exception of them, the countries that I named are all former either U.S. territories or sites of like U.S. military engagement. Where like we say, oh yeah, they want us to be there, but first of all, our troops were
Vietnam,
there previously.
Vietnam, we've
Yeah,
been there
so,
previously. They
not.
Why
kicked
do
all our
they want
troops
us to
out.
be there?
Hold on, Vietnam's kicked all our troops out, right? And they've now asked us for military assistance in some areas against China. Like, this is a different situation. Yeah, I guess they fell in your criteria, but they're the military. But they're not our friends, right? And now they're asking for, like, maybe potentially military weapons. Maybe join this alliance with the Philippines and Korea. Like, so, like, are you with someone like them who's been an adversary for... Even now, they're still kind of adversarial.
Right. So they can ask to. I'll just be more direct with my answer. Sure, they can ask to have this there, right? And that's fair. Well, then in that case, Mexico should be able to ask to have China to be there, right? Like, why not? Like, why? So I'm sorry, I'm not going to be like an American nationalist, American imperialist, and saying we have the ability to do all these awful things to everyone else, and they just have to accept it. No, actually, why does Russia have to accept nukes pointing at them from Eastern or
because
Western
it's
Europe?
your worldview
Why
end
should they
goal,
have
right,
to
Brian?
accept that?
Because
Well,
we're
hold
better
on,
than them.
And
Hold
then
on,
We're better than
when they
them.
put missiles in Cuba.
But Prime,
Like,
I guess what I don't
like,
understand
they-
is what's your
No,
end
no,
goal?
Hunter, why are you against
I've been very,
Venezuela
I've been very consistently and like
Why am I
very
against
consistent in
Venezuela?
recognizing that, Prime.
Venezuela, like what
I
happened?
know you have.
But Prime, I guess the question is,
But there's a difference between like a descriptive and a prescriptive here, right? The descriptive is these nations are going to operate in their interests when it comes to like security arrangements, and this is why Russia acts this way, and this is why China acts this way, and this is why India, Pakistan, all these countries, this is why they operate this way. But it's a whole nother, I think, concept to say, well, like who should come out ahead, and by what means should you come out ahead? Obviously, if you come at it like there's certain costs associated with coming out ahead that are like prohibitive, both in terms of human lives and like material costs as well. But I mean, Prime, to some extent, like even if you don't buy the American nationalism part, you're going to have more loyalty to America than like China, right? Just based on the fact that we are better.
well, I guess my question is, Prime, what is your end goal?
He's in a very Chinese part of his life.
No, well, the reason why I'm asking is like, Prime, what is your end goal here, right? Like, because like with my end goal, obviously my end goal is annex the world, America, world government, everybody in America, right? That's obviously mine. But like with yours, I feel like you're an idealist. You talk about all these things you want for all these people. You want their best lives, and so it confuses me when you say, "Oh, you're not a pacifist," and then you turn around and go, "Oh, well, I want these other countries that are adversaries to have nukes." Well, okay, well, if you want everybody to have all these wonderful things, that doesn't mean give it to China and Russia, because those people are less likely to provide those things. Then so you're slowing down all the people getting the things that you want by letting these countries be as strong adversaries.
I don't know if that's what I'm doing at all.
How do you
but I think that what I want is for people to be able to live their lives defended and unmolested by foreign powers in their military and militarism, right? I don't want them to have their resources stolen. I want them to be able to take advantage of their resources, to be able to democratically decide what they should do within their own territory without having to worry about a bigger, stronger opponent coming to them and destroying them, right? Like, and I think that this feeling of this desire for Americans to do exactly that is only because they are assured, right, of themselves that the world won't do that to us, that we will always be in the top dog position, that we will be the ones able to export the violence, and the violence will never be imported. I don't believe that'll be the case. I think one
So
day,
I'll answer-
I think there's
oh, sorry.
I think that
What happened last
I
time
think,
they
I think that
tried,
empires,
baby?
I think that empires fall all the time, all throughout history. This empire will fall too, right? I would like us to leave a legacy that isn't of mass exploitation and of wild violence, because they're going to do the exact same thing to us.
But wait, our legacy is
So I would like to answer the question that you posed, Lactoid. So the
Yeah.
answer is if China, right? If China is
China.
importing weapons into, let's say, Mexico, let's say not directly on the border as like an obvious means of like invasion, but as like some type of security agreement. This is a socialist nation that steals resources from the world, attempting to expand its influence and power to expand that socialism, that evil, that death and destruction that is China. And no one in the CCP has a legitimate right to life, right? If you're a CCP official, you are a criminal that should probably or ought be killed at any moment by anyone. I'm not saying that you should go out and engage in terrorism, because that wouldn't
Are you
necessarily
being
make
violent when you call
libertarianism.
Lactwood a socialist, by the way? That back to what?
I think any status, all of you included, have given up on your right to life until you
There you
denounce
go.
your
There you go.
socialism. I don't think it's a prudent
Hey,
prudent
to be fair,
tactic. I don't
he
think it's a
includes me
prudent
in
tactic.
that.
Yes, I don't think
And
it's
I'm
a prudent
close.
tactic.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a prudent tactic for anyone to engage in killing you, because it would just harm my ideology in the end. But I
would you
do think
deserve
that
it?
you don't have a justification until you give
I'll
up
be one of the
your
last
evil
ones
beliefs.
to go. Right? I mean, I'll be at the
I
end
mean,
of the line.
if I had
libertarian
if I
than you.
if I had all the if I
The
had
game
if,
for
if
Hunter,
libertarian ideology
the game
had
for
all the
Prime.
power, you would already just be an ANCAP, not by any means of force. You would just look and see how successful and amazing it is, and you would and then someone would come up to you and say, "Hey man, you're a fucking status. Like, I'm gonna steal your shit unless you denounce it." And then you're like, "That town over there is doing a lot better than me. Yeah, fuck it, I'll denounce that shit." You make a good point. But anyways, saying all of that, what I'm saying is this, which is, if a Chinese corporate executive grabs his money and runs away and starts Blackwater or Constellus, private enterprise, and breaks away from the CCP, and it just so happens to be some Chinese dude that creates a giant military militia in Mexico, and it's all privatized. Not only would I say that's not bad, I would say that is a means of moving the world to a better place, and we should all sit and clap and support said action. It's not the concept of guns or of military technology by another country. It is about the means by which those weapons are garnered and the ideology that comes from that, and the power and exerted control by nations having their security interests essentially controlled by one of the most evil regimes with significant power in the world today.
I just think that,
Just to be clear, I would also have a problem. I'm glad we're on board with China. It'd be bad. I would also, if a PMC, or, I mean, you could maybe even make this argument that this is sort of what the cartels are. I'm sure you have some argument as to why cartels are like they're engaging in some kind of aggression.
Criminals?
Yeah,
For
criminals.
all the crimes they engage in.
Yeah, but like I would.
What are laws really?
But
if not
like
authority by the state.
I'm not
so,
a
like,
legal positivist.
my
I believe in
concern-
natural law.
My concern is like, I look, bro. I don't want to get invaded. Like, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, neither
Call
does
me
anyone
selfish.
else.
I don't want. Sure,
yeah,
but like, I
What if
really
they're
don't want to
liber-
get
what if they're
invaded.
liberating you?
And
What if they're liberating
you want the biggest difference?
But you're
Here's the
going to be
biggest difference.
liberated.
No, I'm gonna tell you the
So you're
biggest
here,
difference
they're
between
there.
me
What
and
if
them.
half the country agrees with the invasion?
You're
My
here,
vote
they're
counts.
What
My
if we're
vote counts.
clearing it?
exactly.
Their vote doesn't count. All right, that's
Exactly.
really what
Think
matters here.
think about the situation, right, that I described by changing the difference from the CCP providing these weapons to, like, say, a former Chinese corporation, moving money through like shell corporations until they could escape China, and then being a private property based military organization in Mexico. What would have to happen? What would have to change in order for that to occur? Isn't just that individual and that company, but it would also have to occur that that Mexico becomes open to the concept of privatizing their security. like what would have to happen is that Mexico itself would have to do one of two things. Either they would have to have a philosophical shift towards laissez-faire capitalism in the extreme degree, or B, there would have to be a private company that set up something, and they're not going to invade America, right? They're a threat to Mexico and protecting their own private property rights. And so in both of those scenarios, we're not likely to be invaded. What is most likely to happen, either A, Mexico becomes far more capitalist and far more liberty loving, or B, Mexico ends up in some war with some former Chinese billionaire in their own country, and it is based upon one entity that is maximally private property based, liberty minded individuals versus the socialist fucking Mexican government.
Yeah,
So
if
like
there-
in
if-
both
if-
circumstances, it's better for us.
Sure, if you work the hypothetical so that they are like whatever power is like gaining influence there is like not a threat.
I'm
to
not
us.
working the hypothetical. I'm saying there's a meaningful distinction between
Sure,
a country like the
we're gonna-
CCP
well,
doing it
but right,
versus
sure, I
private
understand.
property.
But like to
But it's
cut
not
at
the
like
weapons themselves.
cut
it's
at-
what the weapons combined with the CCP. mean.
sure. What I'm trying to like cut to is that like yeah, if whatever organization you're referring to doesn't pose a threat to America, then okay, right? But I think that it is perfectly rational for as a citizen of a republic to want to for your first national security concern should be, hey, are our neighbors posing a threat to us? Like, are our immediate
Yeah,
neighbors posing
yeah.
a threat to us? I think this
Sure.
is the first thing, right, that comes to my
And
mind.
those other countries should have that ability as well to have those concerns.
Well, they're not us,
And to exercise self-defense.
I mean, they're
right?
going to hold on, yeah, they're gonna have those concerns,
I'm
but
in
you
a
agreed
room-
before, Prime, you agreed we're better than them. Didn't you agree with that before? Like we got a better constitution, we got all the First Amendment, the gay rights
Hold on.
shit. I mean, we're
Yeah,
awesome, right?
But our
You agree
lives
with all
aren't
that.
worth more than them. Our lives are not worth more than them.
But our governance
That's
is, and the
difference.
country
No,
is the governance
but our
structure.
lives aren't worth. But in the end, what we're talking about is trading their lives for our perceived sense of safety. And most of the times, it's not even safety. Something I actually rejected right previously, but I didn't get a chance to talk about it. This idea that like it was a national security issue, right? Because we so many things as we've seen over the past 20 fucking years, right, have been adopted by the national security state. Oh, it's a national security issue, and so we have to do this. We have to do all the same things we were doing previously, but now it all falls under national security. It just has to be done. There's no choice. Oh, what if there's a mushroom cloud in Manhattan, right? Like eventually I'll get you there. Eventually you'll be talking about like we have to protect ourselves from Venezuela. What
That would be
happens if they get a nuke? So like
that would be terrifying if Venezuela got a nuke. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
will be.
Maduro had a nuke,
and
that
it
would be
terrifying in the way. It'd be terrifying in the way as they
Unless he was
know
rich
that
enough, then it would be
a
chill.
major military power is pointing weapons at them. So look,
Base.
last thing because we've run out of time. So
Well, not to
I
the
wanna give
Venezuelans.
Do you
Starving.
hold on?
Just
people-
to
I
Maduro.
so I want to allow people to leave, and you guys, you can yell
All right,
me
fair
later.
enough.
I'll stick around if you want to yell me some more. Right?
I'm actually gonna
Um,
get out when we do outros.
Sure.
Love you though.
Sure.
Yeah.
My problem with all of this, is that I think that America
That
is
you're
so
a filthy
cavalier.
socialist.
Sure.
Sorry.
But also, I think Americans are so cavalier about military adventurism, about imperialism, because Americans don't actually know the fear of war. They don't actually understand it. They haven't
with
seen, right? They haven't seen a military invasion on their land. They don't know what it is to run from your home as enemy lines advance onto your city, right? They don't know what it actually means to be a refugee from military conflict. They don't know what it means to have a rape being used as a weapon of war. They don't know what it means to have their cities bombed.
Correct.
Right?
Americans are not Venezuelans under the Maduro regime who experienced
Yeah,
all of those
fair enough.
things.
Agreed. Yeah. Americans haven't. They don't know that terror. In the end, they don't have any of that. And so once again,
But the
as well,
ones in
it's
America,
weird,
in
and it's
Florida that do,
weird. I
are
have to explain
celebrating
this.
that Maduro was kidnapped.
Yes, I know.
And-
Yes, the dissidents are celebrating. So it's weird for me to explain this to especially libertarians, right? This idea of being skeptical of state power here. But apparently the ones that except
I've been
Scott,
skeptical the whole
except for
fucking
Scott,
time.
except Scott, I already made an exception for you. I love you, friend.
Oh,
But he
okay.
says the only
An
libertarian,
exception
though.
for the
That's
real libertarian.
Yeah, the
Notice,
real libertarian.
notice,
Little L.
The
but notice
real
this. No,
libertarian.
hold on, pause. I'm going to take this moment. I'm going to own it. Notice how you go, it's weird that I have to explain how state power and intervention might be problematic to the libertarians. And they go, well, except for the guy that actually
said that
claims
before. Hold on.
libertarianism.
I said
Right? No.
before.
I know you said that before. What I'm
You're
saying
the
is
most
point that
extreme.
out.
What's your fucking
No.
point?
My point is this, is that even Prime understands that there's a problem in the individual calling themselves a libertarian, but then not understanding the problematic nature of state intervention and state power.
Well, it's because lactoids are tanky.
I just
Wait, is that right, Prime? Like, I can't understand how somebody might be a libertarian and like be okay with there being roads and police. Like, I just can't wrap my head around it. Like, it's state power. Like, what the fuck? You have to be all the way, or you nothing. That's
I
just
can
that.
understand it fully. It's just a contradiction.
There are two legitimate ideologies: Stalinism and fucking out in the woods with a loincloth. There is no in between.
Yeah.
You can't. Anything there is inconsistent. It just right.
Stalinism
That's
and
what I mean.
anarcho-provisionism are both bullshit, dog shit ideologies. There's
Let's,
one, anarcho-capitalism.
Let's let these fine individuals off. Thank you so much for being here, guys and gals. If you enjoyed this conversation, right? If you loved it, hated it, was annoyed by me or anyone else here, right? But it made you feel something. Consider following the channel on the various platforms: YouTube, Twitch, Kick, our TikTok. Which I will post 2 videos eventually, right? I promised on Corey's ancestors eventually. I've done a lot of things with Corey's ancestors. They're pretty cool. That I will eventually post there, but like it's there, right? Anyway, because
his ancestors, huh? You talking about his Chinese ancestors?
Chinese ancestors.
Huh? Is that what you're fucking saying?
I specifically said that at the
Apparently, they've
start
all
of this.
forfeit their lives.
Oh, the only
To be fair, that's like there's not that many countries that give a fuck about their ancestors' beliefs, other than the Chinese are still kind of care.
Let's thank. But anyway, I want to thank all my guests here. You guys are fantastic. I'm gonna give you an outro. I'll start with the bottom. Okay, all right. It's a punishment to Lactoid here. But Jeb Tan, thank you for being here. Much appreciated, and we would like to have you again in the future.
Yeah, listen, guys. If you agree with me, hate Prime Cotton. No, I'm kidding. Support him. It's his platform for entertainment. And if I ramble, he's got to put me backstage so that we can keep going. But anyway, my issue with this conversation is I understand if you like hyper isolate any like certain individual factors, you can really villainize America going deep on those hyper individual criticisms. If you look at the totality, Maduro is gone. The possible downsides are there is a war in which Maduro's supporters win. And that's it. But if we didn't intervene, that's already the reality. Maduro was already stealing their democracy and beating the populace in a war in which his supporters won. If you look at the other side, they become a puppet state of the U.S. Not good, but better than what was there before. More than likely, they end up in the power of someone like Edmundo, who won the election last time, and they become a democratically elected government that is more friendly to the U.S. by virtue of this, and maybe even feels as if they owe something to the U.S., which, fair enough, they shouldn't. But in a vacuum, that's bad. Relative to what they had before is good, right? We let people trade with China and Russia and us. The other way around, not so much. So the overwhelming number of Doctor Strange projected futures say that this is probably going to turn out positively for the population of Venezuela. I get that. I would hope that American presidents in the future don't have the power to do this stuff without congressional approval. Unfortunately, as of Bush and Obama, they do. If you get it done in 1 or 2 days, you're good. So, as of the status quo, I think this was the best case scenario for Venezuelans. I hope in the future, the United States requires more checks and balances for executive power. Unfortunately, for right now, they don't. So, I'm happy with this outcome. Because in terms of the reality we live in, it's the best for Venezuelans. Otherwise, I agree with Scott and Lactoid that we should probably curb the power of the executive and all that. Otherwise,
much.
this is good.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go to our friend Ali.
Yeah, I think it's easy right now to say that this was good for the Venezuelans, right? Dictator was down. That's it. That's all we see, especially like as Americans. That's all we're going to see. But to Jeb's point, it's not the worst thing that can happen that war happens and Maduro's party wins again. It's just that war happens, right? It's that we go in and we try to defend the oil, and someone kills a soldier, and now we have to deal with that. We have to deal with we're not talking about any of the unintended repercussions and like dealing with those things. We kind of dodged all those because on paper this is just great. The Venezuelans are happy. There isn't a dictator. We're America. We're the biggest and the baddest, so nothing can go wrong. But that's been proven wrong enough times. It's not so much that we're the bad guy, right? We could be the great guy. We could be the best superhero on earth, but if we fuck up and we fumble the bag every so often that we do it, I mean, how good of a guy can you be?
Thank you so much. Let's go to our friend Gibbs.
Yeah, so the reason why Americans don't have this fear of war that Ryan was talking about is really twofold. It's one, we're really fucking good at it. We hand out ass whippings. That's what we do. We're just better. Like there's the fact that we're just bigger than everybody else. I had a buddy that got back from the first Iraq War, and he was like on average they're like 5'6", 5'7", 160. The average American is like 5'9", 5'10". Yeah, 180. And he's like, I killed more people with my helmet than I did with my gun in Fallujah, because you'd go door to door and you would take off. They would jump you, and you would have a fist fight. And I'd take off my helmet and I'd smash him in the head 50 times, and that's the benefit. So one, not only are we better militarily in technology, we're bigger, we're better. We win the Olympics. We're just better overall. America, fuck yeah. Secondly, when I'm sitting here looking at this shit, I'm not buying the cocaine sales, all this other stuff. Like, it's not gone down. In fact, I think we should legalize cocaine. I'll get on board my libertarian buddies. We should legalize this shit. Pure cocaine doesn't fuck up your nose. Like, it's when they stomp it down. If we actually had some safeguards regulating the purity of this shit, great. Then again, I say that and I worry, because I think that'll cause cocaine prices to go up. And they haven't gone down since the 80s. And, there's one sure thing that's good against inflation. It's not gold, it's Coke. So I got a lot of concerns. But my final thoughts here, yeah, I mean, I wish we would stop pretending we're something we're not. Libertarianism, that sounds great. Y'all should all convert to Gibbsism. We should all just be honest and say what we want. And then, since we're the superpower, we get what we want. And if they don't like it, they can just become part of us, or they can keep taking losses. And that's what's going to keep happening, because, God damn it, it's amazing. China had a delegation there, and 6 hours later, we went in there and took the president that they were talking to about sending fucking weapons to. Yeah, that's just send a message. If we sent an ambassador to a country and China went and took that president out right after we met with him, I think I would take some notes if I was Xi, because he's going to be, his ass will be next if he keeps acting up. I don't care if they got nukes. Well, I'm just saying. Yeah, listen, what are they going to do? Are they going to nuke us while we hold Xi hostage in Washington? No, they're going to go, oh shit, our president's there. We're a bunch of little bitches. I'm just saying, I think that I'm excited for the future. I can't wait for the new American empire.
They actually might nuke Xi, because then they'll be rid of him.
Yeah,
it's like someone else gets to be in power. That might be a possibility. Thank you for that.
Whole new meaning to honeypotting.
Thanks for that spirited defense of American violence, Gibbs. Much appreciated, friend. Hunter, love to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a lot more cautious than Gibbs is, clearly. I'm all for curbing the power of the executive. I'm glad that we can all sort of get together and say that Congress has been castrated. But I feel like we're on a narrow pathway right now, and that the winds are blowing. And unless we're really, really, really fucking careful, which I don't think we will be, we're gonna veer off to the side, and we're gonna go to oblivion. I think that it's extremely likely that we just invoked like a 5-year war and a number of different other foreign policy casualties that we're gonna feel the ramifications for a decade. And that fucking sucks, because I feel like we were leaning towards a more soft power approach. We were leaning towards, just funding PBS in Saudi Arabia instead of fucking bombing them. And I guess, call me a cuck, Gibbs, but I think I prefer that approach. You can follow me.
He will call you cuck.
No, I know he will. And I'll call him retarded, and it's going to be a little back and forth. It's going to be great. You can follow me on, it's Hunter Kozak on TikTok, Twitter, etc. All the platforms, you know them.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, Hunter. And we'd love to hear. You were surprisingly quiet today. I want to hear more from you, friend. But yeah, hopefully we can have you in the future. Seriously, we love what you have to say. Let's go to our friend Corey.
I pretty much just echo more or less the exact same sentiment that Hunter just went through, and a sentiment that he mentioned earlier in terms of I'm happy to be proven wrong in terms of it. It turns out well for the Venezuelan people, then great. But as of now, I don't think the complexities of the situation are fully being appreciated. But yeah, and I guess one last thing to Jeb. I believe at some point you mentioned that United States is the most freest country in the world. It's the best. So then I've extended this challenge to Lacto, and I believe so far he's failed. So I challenge you sometime like next week, if you're on the panel, you will open a Kinder Surprise right on stream. Okay, I'm sure you'll be able to do that, right? Challenge accepted.
100%.
100%. Okay, you want to put money on it?
I do. I think this is. Yes. I think this is like there are so many futures in which this ends better for Venezuela.
Wait, that's not my question.
What about the Kinder Supreme?
Kinder Surprise.
It's a
What a-
Kinder egg, yeah.
Sorry.
Do you know
I
what a
don't-
Kinder egg is? The Kinder.
You
The
can-
Yeah, I
Kinder
do,
egg
but
with,
they're illegal where I'm from. I'm in California. You're not allowed
Wait,
to
I
have,
thought
like,
you're in the
a-
free.
They're illegal in
in
America.
The United States.
Okay, that's what I thought. But
Well, hold
okay.
on. So are lawn darts. I have those. What's that supposed to mean? Just kidding.
Well, yeah, no, like Kinder eggs
I'll
are
do that.
illegal here, okay? Because they're unsafe.
I'll take you up on your challenge. So long as you also unbox your unregistered firearm at the same time.
He's in
I don't know
Quebec.
that.
He
I don't know.
can't.
Look, I'll complete the challenge as long as you give me 3 weeks for delivery, okay?
What? 3 weeks.
He
of
knows
No,
the
work?
guy.
I can't. I
3 weeks for
literally
delivery.
cannot get
Oh,
a
okay.
Kinder
Oh, okay.
Surprise egg in my.
So I will go to our friend Scott, and hopefully Scott can help us out because I know he's had a past, right? Could you confirm or deny this idea that pure Coke doesn't damage the nose?
Yeah, that's wild. By the way.
Oh,
Yeah,
well,
I have no idea.
So-
could you tell us?
If you're snorting any crystal,
I could. So
damage
the
is much
answer
less.
is Gibbs is exaggerating a truth, which is very Trumpian of him, which is that the majority of the damage that is done from snorting cocaine is from impurities and things that are cut in it. That doesn't mean that if you just snort pure Colombian cocaine all the fucking time, your nose is going to be fucking fine. That's not true. But he is correct that a majority of the damage that is done is like the opening,
they cut
like
it with.
there is an opening of blood vessels, right? Like in your nostrils, like you are going to get sinus problems. You'll potentially get sinus infections that'll do damage as well, right? Anytime you snort shit in your nose, it's not supposed to be there. You can cause damage, like even just from snorting anything. But he is kind of right that most coke is cut because of
They have a
the
solution
black
for the
market nature.
Get this nasal spray. That'll get rid of the sinus infections. It's called saline. It's wonderful. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. It doesn't always work. Neti pot works pretty good too. For anybody snorting drugs or that has a sinus infection.
Yeah, I was gonna say I don't snort drugs,
Dual
but I did
use.
have
They all-
chronic sinusitis as a kid, and neti pots are a miracle.
They also make the fancy ones, so you put them in there, go through all the way through.
It pumps, it'll
Yeah.
pump actively,
Black
so you don't have to
liquid's
like turn
melting on
over
the
and let
inside
gravity
over
do
the
its
drugs.
job. So,
Okay,
anyways,
well, that's not that
for
much
my
work.
closing, for my closing,
Don't do drugs, kids.
it was something I brought up. Nobody really kind of talked about it. I do think that it is a very interesting change in affairs, which is the testing of the JY-27Vs and the stealth radar systems by the Chinese utterly failing. I do think that, and the fact that there is experimental drone technology that we have that obviously we use in Caracas, but nobody was been briefed publicly about what it was that we used, right? Like we know about our drone defense systems, such as like Thor modular units that can like move in a couple hours and be positioned anywhere and be built by two people, and they can take out any drone. They can do the EMP nets or they can do the targeting. But whatever the fuck was used there, like nobody's really talking about it, which I find kind of weird, is that like we definitely used some new technology that nobody has been briefed on, right? Like I haven't heard anybody look at the patents and see if there's some shit that's patented. Usually the Navy has weird patents. Maybe somebody will find something there. But I do think that does change things in the theater when China's best equipment is field tested and fails miserably. Like I think that changes the way that military leaders and generals in South America are going to view whether or not they're willing to engage with the Trump administration or America, or whether or not they feel safe, getting imported weapons from China. That's still, I think that changes things. I just don't know for better or worse. In terms of what we're looking for in the future, I still have the same opinion that I started with, unfortunately, which is that I do think that we are engaged in what is likely to be horrific regime change actions by the state, but that I don't think we're going to get a repeat of Iraq and Afghanistan and Libya, because I do think, I know Hunter had made, said that, the Trump had kind of bailed on many of those soft power things, but at the same time, CISA, right, the Cyber Information Security Act was signed by Trump, and he had no idea what was in it. That's what kind of the justification for the entire Twitter files and so many things we learned from that. Trump ordered troop withdrawal from Syria, and his generals just ignored him, and they all laughed about it on CNN, and nobody went to jail, and nobody's going to jail now. I think people vastly overestimate how much power the president himself actually has, as opposed to the State Department and the intelligence communities and people that are allowed to do things in secret, and black sites and NGOs that are working in combination with in combination with with the state.
US?
Sorry, I was just like hearing typing and I got distracted for a second. It's fine.
Bobby Gibbs. Yeah, go ahead.
And so I think it was Hunter this time. It's fine.
It was me.
I
I
have
keep
been
getting,
muted every
it
time
keeps
I've
getting
done
blamed
that.
for me.
It was probably Gibbs. No, I stand by my
It's
statement.
fair enough. Lastly, I'll say one super hardcore libertarian thing here at the end, which is the one good thing that I think might have come out of it, beyond the fact that Maduro is a subhuman, and whatever happens to him happens to him. I don't care, what the American criminal organization does to a subhuman criminal, is that we have absolutely proven without a doubt that a small, well-armed force that is mobile can go into a country, take out a dictator, kill 40 to 80 people, and immediately be removed. So I don't ever want to hear ever again this concept that private insurance and private military contractors under a libertarian system just could never match to the might of like large standing armies of hundreds of thousands and trillions of dollars, because the American government has proven with a few pieces of superior technology and a small, well-trained organization, you can straight up topple a country in a few hours.
The American what?
Damn.
The American
What?
Oh, the government. The American government.
So I know. I'm sorry.
Do you think you owned with that,
I don't wanna
waiting for me
engage
to
you in a
finish to go,
conversation.
ooh, government?
I'm sorry, friend. I don't want to engage in conversation. I know my friend Latchwood wants to leave, right? But come on, like that military is backed by a massive logistics network, right? Of a major power that has bases spread around the world, allowing it to project.
We didn't need those bases around the world to topple Venezuela. We didn't need a standing army of 100,000 people to topple Venezuela.
We have aircraft carriers. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. I'll just leave it alone. I apologize.
I'm just saying, we didn't need a long war with standing armies.
Oh my God!
Ron, you're right. You're right.
Small force toppled Venezuela in a few
hours.
hours.
Private super carriers. That's what you're right. That's what you mean.
100%, brother.
Let's go to our good friend Lagtwade. And thank you so much, man.
Yeah, I think that this was legal. I think that the President Trump acted within his constitutional authority, as confirmed by centuries of precedent, all the way back to the founding fathers, as confirmed by implications of War Powers Act, and I think that it's difficult to criticize what is such a effective action unless you try to point to these other things, right? Because 3 hours, right? It's crazy. 3 hours, dictator gone. So overall, I'm leaning towards it being a good thing. If you liked what I had to say tonight, you could find me at Lactoid TV on Twitch, Twitter, and YouTube.
I appreciate you all. I actually didn't spend that time looking for a person to raid. I do apologize.
Do you ever?
I do actually. No, I've been good recently. I've been good. No, I've been good. I
You haven't
usually
been good
have
all
them-
year.
True. That's last
That is true.
year.
But I immediately found I talked to this person at some point in time.
Right.
The Wild Latina, right? I've talked to this person.
Yeah,
Any
she's a
case,
fun one.
yeah, I'll send the crew over there, right?
That'll be good.
If Scott will